What's up, everyone? I am one half of the Orphan Gamers, Jordan Deeb, and welcome to Waypoint Media Club, a show where we discuss, review, talk about, argue, and speculate about all different forms of media, be it TV shows, movies, video games, even music, possibly books, but not because we're not nerds, we're dorks. So, I do have to say, all the episodes of This is the Waypoint will fall under the Waypoint Media Club umbrella. That title just wrote itself, so we had to take advantage of it. But you saw what we did there. Anything we do like that from here on out is going to be titled This is the Waypoint. But sometimes it could just be general topics. It could be about one specific show or video game. The rules are loose, but we'll have fun, you know? Kind of like a shady strip club. But enough about that. Let me introduce my co-host. We have Token, Post Malone, Stan, Chris, a.k.a. RumblePack92.
Hey, what's happening, y'all?
He has the pop at the ready. We also have Mr. Hot Takes himself, some other Josh.
Ooh, it's me with the hot takes. I'd rather watch Batman vs. Superman than Age of Ultron, since y'all are talking about that because of WandaVision.
All right. And he's not so orthodox, Austin J. Ernst.
Hey, that's me. Hello. I don't have very hot takes, but I leave that to Josh for the most part.
Sorry. And last but not least, a man discovering new games for the new year, AlBob875.
Hi, guys.
Alrighty. So, today we are discussing all the Marvel-related announcements that came out of Disney Investor Day, which feels like a goddamn lifetime ago, but it was like a month ago.
Does. I was thinking about that. Yeah, it's just a month
boy,
ago.
oh boy, the month it's been.
I can't believe the Disney investor call was 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago, back in December 2020.
Cyberpunk came out a month ago.
Oh God. So we have been holding this one off, but it actually worked out in our benefit because Kevin Feige's also said a few things today and last night, so we're going to be touching on those things as well as they relate. But there's plenty to talk about. I've introduced everyone, so let's get to it. First biggest thing that was announced at Disney Plus, guys. I mean, we all know it. We're all looking forward to it. We are doing another discussion show about it, by the way, audience. WandaVision comes out this Friday. Now, I'm hyped for WandaVision because I have no idea what the fuck's going on.
Literally, WandaVision, it's gonna be what sets up Phase 4. Like,
absolutely.
With Multiverse of Madness and all that. Like,
but I'm so lost into the how, and that's what's fun.
Exactly, yes.
Because I think at this point we all know the general gist of, like, Wanda's done something, whether she's living in her own head, created a pocket universe, basically ripped the universe apart, where she's living in this world based off of traditional TV sitcoms up until modern sitcoms, and people are trying to get her to snap out of it, whatever that means. We've had a few interesting casting announcements where obviously we know it's going to be Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany, but we have, let me double check her name before I get her mixed up with someone else with a similar name. First, I'll just say this. We have Randall Park coming back. I'm assuming playing the same agent he did in Ant-Man and the Wasp. We also have... Okay, we do. We have Catherine Hahn coming back, not Catherine O'Hara. That is the mother from Home Alone and Schitt's Creek. I always get their names mixed up in my head. We have Catherine Hahn coming in as Agatha, another witch.
Okay.
Funny enough, we have Kat Dennings returning. So Darcy from the first two Thor movies will be back. I'm interested to see how.
It's a weird pick, yeah.
That's an interesting
Yeah,
poll.
it's a very strange
It is
poll.
weird because, like, I know she worked with Jane Foster, and I know Jane Foster did a bunch of things kind of related to this. Right. But I remember the whole joke in Thor 1 of Catherine Yeah, but I remember the whole joke was Kat Dennings was the only person that applied, but because she got mixed up and she was a political science major.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm interested to see how she comes back.
It's also just an interesting poll because, like,
and
those
then a real interesting
have never interacted together at all. I mean, it's like
not by any means.
She's always been in the Thor movies and wasn't even in Ragnarok. We haven't seen her since Thor 2.
Mew Mew.
Yeah.
Mew Mew, yeah.
She had a very small part in Thor 2.
Yeah. And then we also have... Oh, there he is. He's got the Mew Mew.
Packing the heat.
Panoia Paris, who is coming in as Monica Rambeau, which that's an interesting one.
Oh, yeah.
So we've only seen Monica Rambeau in Captain Marvel, but obviously she was a kid. That movie took place in the 90s. Now, and where's the MCU? 2023?
Yeah.
She's a adult, clearly, and she looks like she's going to be sent into whatever world Wanda's made.
Interesting.
To kind of double back on that Catherine Hahn casting pick though too, that's really interesting to me, just because I mean she's a fantastic actress. Like don't get me wrong, but I mean it's like the one role I always remember from her is she plays a fairly small part in the later seasons of Parks and Rec.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's always what I remember her as, and so I'm like, she's gonna be in a Marvel thing. It's like
She
everything
is.
about this show is weird, and something that I've said for years, like since Guardians of the Galaxy, is like I'm so glad that the sort of like the general movie audiences are so ready for Marvel to start getting weirder, and I think Phase 4 is really going to be weird, and I like the way that you guys put this earlier, to where it's like, yeah, I think that this is going to set the tone for what Phase 4 is going to be, and it's strange. What the fuck is this show?
I am so ready for it to get weird, but I also think we're in a place as a society where this premise of Phase 4 is not as weird as it would have been, let's say, 3 years ago. I think 3 years ago, only nerds knew about, regardless of which fandom you were talking about, the concept of a multiverse was only for comic dorks and physics majors, and people that saw that one episode of Family Guy one time, maybe. But now I think we've reached a point, because of different forms of media, and particular Into the Spider-Verse, where people understand what a multiverse is supposed to be. We've had Into the Spider-Verse, we've had the CW Crisis on Infinite Earths adaptation,
Rick and Morty.
We've had Rick and Morty, yeah. So I think we're in a place where it's weird, but people will understand it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Endgame literally tossed audiences a 3-hour time travel movie. They sat through it, so like, yeah, I think
they sat through it, and they had their rules clear, except for the very end where people still argue. But for the most part, very strict rules.
It's strict rules.
Exactly.
It makes sense. People are just dumb.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'm trying to think what else we could. So this was interesting. This is for the first time. Disney's actually gonna drop the first 2 episodes on Friday, so it's gonna be a 2-episode premiere. I don't know if they're doing this for a ratings thing. I don't know if they're doing it because it's been forever since the MCU has had a new project, or if the pilot's a 2-parter.
That's what I think. I heard 2-parter pilot.
Yeah.
I mean, even if the pilot is a 2-parter, because I mean it's a series, they're all going to be connected to each other. I think they're probably giving us more at the beginning of this, as opposed to, say, like dropping the first 2 episodes of Mandalorian, because the concept is so different that they're probably like, here's a lot of it to start with, so that way you kind of get the vibe of it.
You get the context.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And 2 episodes is a lot, considering the whole show is only 6 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a solid like hour and a half runtime, both of those combined. Like,
Probably. I mean, I'm pretty sure almost every Disney Plus Marvel show is either a miniseries or only has been confirmed at this point for 2 seasons. So the stories are sticking small. WandaVision is a miniseries, I know. So I think we're just getting these 6 episodes, unless they do a season 2.
Right.
But even then, that would be its own contained kind of story in the MCU.
But depending on how this ends, I would see this more as a miniseries rather than.
So we do know this.
Yeah.
We know that WandaVision, Spider-Man 3, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and some say Loki, but I think that one goes back and forth, are all connected in some way.
Yeah.
And I think we're gonna, start discussing that stuff more as we go down the line. But we know something with the multiverse is coming, and with Loki, you have to assume that time stuff is coming too, because the whole idea of Loki is it's the branch from Avengers, which we'll touch on more when we get. Yeah, when we get to his on the list. But the next on the list is actually Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So we know what it's called. We know Sam Raimi's directing it.
Ooh.
And we know that they said it's going to have horror action elements, but as for plot, I don't think we really know what else, other than the name giving away something about the multiverse.
We do know that Scarlet Witch is going to be in it as well.
Yep.
Yes.
And I think rumors abound for whatever the next Spider-Man movie is, just as far as it being essentially, allegedly, a Spider-Verse style movie. I think Multiverse of Madness is going to again set that up for general audiences to kind of get used to the idea. It's like, hey, we're pulling from all of these different things, and that's going to be related to
well, Multiverse of Madness is actually, it's been moved and now comes out after Spider-Man 3.
Oh, really?
Weird. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's weird.
Kind of
Multiverse of Madness comes out March 2022. Spider-Man is expected December 2021.
That's really weird. Weren't there rumors that initially that Tobey Maguire was going to be in Doctor Strange first?
No, I think people made that joke because of Sam Raimi directing.
Okay.
If I'm being completely honest, I do know. One of the things that Feige said today in one of the interviews, I don't have the reference at the moment, is that he said the shift of the order does not affect the overarching story creatively. And I think there was a lot of rumors going around because a lot of people were saying that they can't drop Falcon and the Winter Soldier till after Black Widow because of spoilers. He basically said that's not true. Doctor Strange versus Spider-Man in terms of order, I'm assuming it's just like they both complement each other enough.
But aren't necessarily like
they're not necessarily that. I honestly think it, from what we know so far, I feel like it makes a little bit more sense where it's like Scarlet Witch did something. Then whatever multiverse interference we have in Spider-Man 3, regardless of how big it is, happens in Spider-Man 3, and then Doctor Strange goes, all right, I gotta sort this shit out.
They might like wrap it up later. I think there are two like main questions that I have just as far as like this run of things as far as just like, you know, we got Black Widow, we got WandaVision, Doctor Strange, Loki, Spider-Man. One is because all these things, it's like unlike something like The Mandalorian, it's like these are all pretty much going to be like each series is kind of going to be a self-contained story and will most likely have a semi-definitive end, or at least something that's going to lead into the movies. And as that becomes more prevalent, I'm curious to see what from each of these series is actually going to end up tying into the movies, because you could potentially have people that aren't watching the shows suddenly like go into this movie and like, who are these characters, or where did this plotline come from, or whatever. And I'm curious like how much of that they're going to allow to make sure that the movies still make sense for people that don't have Disney Plus.
I think, you know, I think if they're doing it right, somebody that isn't watching the movies should be able to go, or isn't watching the TV show, should be able to go into the movies and understand them. However, I don't think they're going to be as nice about it as they are going to be with Star Wars and how they were with past Marvel shows. Because Inhumans, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Cloak and Dagger, and then the Netflix shows were all under Marvel Television. These shows, these miniseries are officially under Marvel Studios. They are MCU stories, whereas The Defenders was like, we're going to reference it, but will they ever cross over? Who knows?
Yeah,
this time they're straight up saying
it was more of the movies affected the shows, but the shows didn't affect the movies.
Yes.
Which is I think what interests me about this is that potentially the shows could start affecting the movies now. Like that could be a big thing. You know, they're already talking about characters like Moon Knight starting out, and I think Miss Marvel as well starting out on Disney Plus and then appearing in movies.
Going into movies, which I think was everybody's hope with The Defenders, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. Looking at what Complex put down, one, Rachel McAdams is coming back for Doctor Strange 2.
Cool.
Makes sense.
Cool.
And we will also be getting, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering this name, Xochitl Gomez, who is going to be starring as America Chavez, who, if anybody isn't too familiar with comics, America Chavez is a Latin American teenage girl who becomes her universe's Captain America, but she refers to herself as Miss America. She was part of the Young Avengers with I just made a connection. The Young Avengers, I can't remember if it's Wiccan or Theo, but Wiccan, he's Vision and Wanda's son, isn't he?
Yep.
So
I believe Kate Bishop was also part of the Young Avengers.
I think so at a point.
At one point in time, yeah.
I know in this universe it was like a teenage female version, because this is its own universe, so it kind of took its own continuity with things. We had Miss America, you had a younger female version of Loki that was also, I believe, you had Wiccan, who, like we said, was Wanda and Vision's son, and then you had Theo, who I forget what his connection is to bigger things.
He was a Skrull, if I remember correctly,
Was he? Okay.
but he didn't know it at the time, and so he had like all of the powers of like the Super Skrull, but he didn't realize it was a whole big thing that he didn't know he was a Skrull.
Yeah.
It eventually came out, and it
Interesting.
was very, very cool. The other before we get too far into it, the other question that I had, and this relates directly to Sam Raimi and the Multiverse of Madness, is what role is Bruce Campbell going to play?
Right.
Stephen Strange's elevator, like the concierge at his apartment complex, maybe
I really hope that he's in it. It's like he better fucking be. It's
for
Sam
just a
Raimi
second.
movie.
Yeah.
I think
I want him to be the same chauffeur that we see outside of the theater in Spider-Man 3.
Well, remember, had the Tobey Maguire series continued, Bruce Campbell was going to be Mysterio, and all three of those appearances were going to become. You were going to realize, oh, he was the same person. Apparently, I didn't know this about America Chavez, but she has the ability to travel through dimensions. So I think that's a perfect way to bring her into the multiverse movies.
Of course.
Mhm.
And Feige has confirmed that, and we already said this: Multiverse of Madness, Spider-Man 3, WandaVision, all connected in some way, shape, or form. What is
Cool.
lingering in the back of my head is, are we ever going to get closure on the post-credit scene from Doctor Strange, which was Mordo kind of going rogue, where he kind of figured there were too many sorcerers out there, they shared their secrets to too many people, and he went back to the patient that Doctor Strange approached when he heard about this, and basically took away his powers and re-giving him his injury in the process. I wonder if that's going to be connected, if we're going to get closure on it.
I can see it being
kinda
more like a
forgot
B
about
plot,
Yeah.
not necessarily the main multiverse madness thing, but kind of see him
I hope
coming
it's
in
not
just to
too
screw with
crammed.
them. Yeah.
Or if they find a way to incorporate it in a way that makes sense, it could be cool. But if you had asked me 2 years ago what Doctor Strange 2 is going to be about, I was going to say, oh, they're going after Mordo.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about him.
Yeah, that's why I'm not a betting man.
I still have yet to see Doctor Strange. That's like one of the 3 MCU movies I haven't seen.
It's Iron Man
Uh,
1 with magic powers.
Yeah,
that's
and
basically what I got.
don't watch it under the influence. I'll say that.
Oh my gosh.
Things get trippy.
Oh yeah, dude, that would.
makes me now
I
wanna
bet.
watch it under the.
Yeah, dude. Smoke a bowl to watch Doctor Strange, dude. That should be
Hell
awesome.
yeah.
Oh god.
It's one of the better origin movies that you can find in the MCU, though, in my opinion.
Definitely. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, it doesn't do anything like spectacular, like plot wise or anything. But I mean, the character dialogue and the special effects are all really,
Special
really
effects are great. I think I like the side characters, like the Ancient One and Wong are just fun to be around.
Yeah, I love Wong.
Yeah. So next is Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is releasing March 2021. So not that far after WandaVision.
We got what, maybe a month break in between?
Yeah, so WandaVision's this
Too
week,
long.
and then you have to say 5 weeks after that, since we're getting 2 on the right.
No, before.
Before, yeah, you're right.
This is the show I'm waiting for, man. Buck is one of
same.
my favorite characters. I'm so
Absolutely.
excited to finally see what the MCU is going to look like without Steve Rogers in it.
There's
Just
a
that-
lot that this show's tackling.
And just that chemistry between the two. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you saw a bit in Endgame.
Endgame,
Also-
Civil War, yeah.
Homecoming.
Because today it was announced in one of Kevin Feige's Collider interviews that he confirmed, and I'll get to the other shows he mentioned, but Falcon and the Winter Soldier is also only going to be 6 episodes, each of their episodes going 40 to 50 minutes. So
Nice.
not too bad, but like I've been hearing more and more about this, and they're tackling a lot of different things. One, we know Zemo's coming back,
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
so we have to go with whatever the
Making
major
guy.
overarching plot is going to be, and then we know that a good chunk of it is going to be a lot about Sam struggling, I think, to kind of take on the role of Captain America for a lot of different reasons, and I think I want to say I hope that Marvel doesn't shy away from addressing the racial aspect of it.
Because that was a
Because
big part of it in the comics.
That was a big part of it in the comics, and I think we have confirmed that his name's slipping right now, Isaiah from Marvel Comics is going to be in it. Yeah, Isaiah Thomas. I think you actually might be right. Oh, wait, no, that's a basketball player. I hate you. Isaiah Bradley. So, Isaiah Bradley in the comics was basically what you find out is the super soldier serum that Steve got was being worked on originally by the US, the UK, and Germany all together. And then when the war happened, they each split off. And obviously, the German scientists created the one that worked, but started helping the Americans. But what they don't ever say is that they basically did these trials on different people in their countries, and America did a lot of the trials on African American men. And it becomes a whole thing where they try to keep it under wraps, and basically if the side effects got too bad, they would just they would execute that person. And Isaiah Bradley he got a dose and didn't pass away. They didn't stop him. I don't know the full details of it, but basically he's going to be someone that knows a little bit more of like the horrors that America basically committed in making this. And I think Sam's going to struggle with this idea of this symbol of America and what does America stand for. So yeah, race and Captain America with Falcon taking over the mantle has been a big thing in the comics, like you said, Chris. So I want to see them address that, but I just think again,
especially with
overarching story with Zemo, this emotional story we're going to go on with Sam Wilson is a lot for 6 episodes.
Yeah, but I was even going back to that whole race thing. It's like even with everything going on today, it's gonna be huge if they tackle that.
Yeah,
it's a heavy topic.
Mm-hmm.
I would be more disappointed if they didn't do it. That obviously, if they do it, they can't do it poorly. That's gonna come off horrible.
Right.
But if they were to just ignore it, it would be really upsetting, I think.
Yeah, I think if they ignore it, they'll probably get a lot of backlash for that too, to be like, hey, what the fuck? But also, it's like I wouldn't go into it expecting it to be a huge part of it though either. Like I think I could see them addressing it in maybe one episode and then just kind of leaving it there. I don't know whether they're going to make that a huge central point of it.
I think we've heard that somebody said for the first 2 episodes he doesn't use the shield. So that's 2 out of 6.
Even in the trailer, I think there's a point where Bucky asks, he's like, "Why aren't you using the shield?" He's like, "Not yet." He's like, "I gotta earn it." Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think we're gonna go on this story with Sam, and even if it's not everything with Isaiah Bradley all throughout the show, maybe the emotional aspect or his his opinion on it will evolve throughout the show, but we only get Isaiah Bradley for a couple episodes because we do also know that there's going to be the story of the kind of new Captain America that they use as a propaganda machine like they did with Steve originally. They basically just get another person. They get a white guy, of course, that he's the one that America prances around.
Right.
So I think we're going to see conflict between that.
So you talking about being worthy to use a shield just kind of reminded me. So this is basically Thor 1, but for Falcon.
Yes.
I like it.
Those who are worthy shall get the powers of Rogers.
Do the American people know that Steve is gone?
I think based on what I've heard, there was something that came out the other day, and also based off the beginning of Spider-Man: Far From Home, I think the public just thinks Cap died.
Yeah, that's my understanding of it. Is that the general public thinks that he died like Tony Stark.
Yeah, and I think that's so much easier than explaining the truth.
Right.
Totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's this.
Yeah. It's just like, he's dead.
Long story.
Yeah.
You did this for a girl.
To develop it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You don't want people calling Cap a simp, So you just tell them.
It would be horrible for the optics of the Avengers if they were like, "Oh my God, their leader was a simp."
Simp. Yeah. Exactly.
They better
horrible. He says horrible.
They better call him Captain Falcon at least one point in the show, or I'm done.
They
with
better,
Marvel.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh God, how dare they?
Give me a Falcon Punch reference too. You know what I mean? Just really sell it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, give him the
just
Falcon
a Falcon
Punch.
punch. Just a Falcon Punch. I'll be happy.
I mean, they've made references to pop culture before. Who's to say that somebody won't say it as a joke, and then it just goes over other people's heads? Because I don't know if Sam and Bucky have had that much time to play Smash in the years.
Hopefully.
Yeah, true.
Here's my biggest issue with what we've seen in the trailer is Bucky's not as ripped anymore, and I don't like that.
I mean, listen, man, he was dead for 5 years. Cut him some slack.
He needs to be huge. I like my superheroes massive.
You heard it here first, guys.
No thick Bucky.
Hey.
Chris loves his men massive.
And cut his hair. Come on.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed about the haircut too, but I get it. He kind of needed the identity change.
No, yeah, I'm excited to see where Bucky's character goes from here. I mean, you know, capless.
Mm-hmm. Chris,
Capless.
Come on, no thick Bucky.
Right. What is the thin Bucky bullshit?
I want Bucky to get really thick, but never change his arm to scale with him.
Oh my god,
that's fun.
He's the same one arm and he's huge.
But yeah, so this one is definitely another miniseries. This one I can't really see getting a second season. Like I could see WandaVision being like, maybe we'll leave it abstract where she gets a second season and we can develop her more coming down from whatever goes down in the movies. This one I straight up think is just like it's one and done. These will start becoming major players in the movies now, but this is a one-time show.
I can kind of go back to that. I can see WandaVision going either way. Like
definitely WandaVision can go either way, but I can't possibly think of how they'll turn this into a second season, a larger show, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
No, I think this will be a one and done.
Yeah, which is fun in a way.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
I'm fine with that. Yeah, I think they're probably going to set up their roles for whatever movie that they're going to appear in.
Yeah, wherever they go next.
Yeah.
All right, after that on the complex list is basically the 3 next movies we have coming up. So I'll go one by one. Black Widow. So May 2021, God willing, if COVID allows.
I will believe that movie is coming out when I see the Marvel title scroll. I will not believe it until then.
Just put it on Disney Plus.
I'll give it 5 minutes after because I don't want to have it Marvel Studios and then just suddenly I hear boom, 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 and I see Rick Astley's fucking face. But yeah, so Black Widow should have been out over for about a year by now. Unfortunately, is not. We know this one's a prequel that takes place right after Civil War. I'm excited. I want to finally see it.
Yeah,
I want to see the reference between Jeremy Renner and her. The Budapest, is that what it is?
Budapest.
Yeah.
I'm excited for Red Guardian just because, I've never really seen David Hopper in anything other than the SNL episode he hosted, but he seems like a really funny and cool dude.
Yeah.
And I like the line where he's just like, it still fits, and she goes, "You got fat." You got fat. Yeah. That's what I want to see.
Yep.
So I'm excited for him.
I'm always down for more Black Widow. I'm really excited to see Taskmaster. That's
Taskmaster is going to be interesting, especially I don't know if his reveal is going to be anyone of consequence.
Mm-hmm.
Although I've got to be honest, the Avengers game has kind of made me hate Taskmaster now.
See, I hated him more. I hated him more in Spider-Man 2018.
I didn't mind him in Spider-Man 2018.
Yeah.
Oh, Spider-Man. Just the amount of fucking times that I fought Taskmaster and Avengers, I'm done with him. I don't know.
See, I only played the campaign, so I didn't see him that much.
I'll run Taskmaster missions every once in a while. They're fun. Especially if you have somebody that has Pym particles and then suddenly he becomes just a tiny man. He just looks like a very angry toddler coming at you.
With a sword.
Yeah, with a sword. Something else about Black Widow is I wonder if at the end of the movie they will jump to present day and discuss, spoilers for Endgame. Natasha's dead.
Right.
So
on that note, we see a shot of Natasha in Loki.
A lot of people are assuming that's Natasha.
I think I could have swore someone disproved that already, but I could be wrong.
Loki's hard because it's like it's all timeline mumbo jumbo, so it's like you can't really.
I mean, it could be a different Natasha, but I mean,
different Natasha, different timeline, etc. I've heard, and I'm sure we're going to touch on rumors today, so we'll probably talk about this show later on more. But so there was a thing that got confirmed that I think Florence Pugh is going to have an appearance in the Hawkeye show.
Oh.
So what people are assuming is at the end of Black Widow, it'll catch up to like modern day. She'll probably hear about Natasha's death. And people are like, oh, now she's going to go to New York to become the next Black Widow, to carry on the title.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
That's what's rumored. I mean, I think it'd be really cool to see because, the Black Widows are just a group of people they're like the alternative to the Winter Soldiers. Yeah, they're all from the Red Room. So it's not like there's only one Black Widow.
Right.
Let me see her performance first, and then I'll make my decision on whether or not I want that.
It's Florence Pugh. It's going to be good.
And I mean, yeah, it's like you said, the same thing as the Winter Soldier. To where it's like she was just kind of the last one, so she's like the Black Widow. But yeah, there were at one point in time a lot of them.
There was also, this is just fun to think about. They were considering doing a theatrical release with the Disney Plus release, but at this point they are sticking to theatrical. My money's on if it's not like if people aren't ready to go to theaters by May 7th. I honestly just think they're just that. If it has to get delayed one more time, they will cave and be like, "Fuck it, Disney Plus."
Okay.
Especially, I think it's also especially after people get into the habit of watching the Disney Plus Marvel shows.
Right.
Yeah. And then after that we also have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I know little to
fucking excited for this one, dude.
I know nothing about this movie because I know nothing about this character other than I know the Ten Rings are important to Iron Man lore. So Chris, do you want to take this?
That's why I'm so excited about it. I don't know anything about Shang-Chi.
Yes. But the cool thing was there's the short Hail to the King that I'm sure this is gonna directly relate to.
So for anybody that doesn't know or hasn't seen it in a while, so Iron Man 3, a lot of people dislike the little twist of Aldrich Killian calling himself the Mandarin, being the real guy that was pulling the strings behind the Mandarin that you saw on television. But Hail to the King basically confirms that he just took this name, this title of the Mandarin from a legend, which goes back to the Ten Rings, who are the terrorist organization that kidnapped Tony in the first movie, and in the comics have a big connection to the Mandarin. So because that historically, or there is a legend of the real Mandarin, this would be the time to introduce him.
And I think that's 100% what it is. I think we're going to get the actual Mandarin in this movie. In the comics, I mean, it's not just that that the Ten Rings have a connection to the Mandarin. The Mandarin runs the Ten Rings. Like that's the whole thing. The Mandarin himself has magic rings, and that's where he gets his abilities from. Like each ring has a different ability, and I mean he's not honestly he's not the coolest villain in the world, but I mean Iron Man comics were not the greatest. I mean it's like we were talking about it off camera earlier, just that I mean it's like before the MCU, like they were throwing all these movies together, and Captain America, Iron Man, like whatever, like
they were the B to C list of Marvel at that time.
They were the C listers. Nobody cared about these characters before.
Other than comic fans, other than comic. Aficionados. And even then, they were more cared about the Avengers than they did these individual characters.
Yeah, exactly. And so, even before you get to the point of, even when you get to like the point of Iron Man 3, like back at that time, it's like it would have been weird to have this character come in. It's like, hey, this dude has magic rings, and that's his ability. But now, I mean, we've got Guardians of the Galaxy, we've got Doctor Strange, we got WandaVision, we have all this stuff. It's like if you say, hey, this dude's got magic rings, people are gonna be like, oh yeah, duh, okay, sweet, I'm in. And so I make them really, really mystical. I do like the way that they portrayed the Ten Rings and Iron Man's 1 and 3 at kind of grounded them a bit to make them essentially look like a modern day terrorist organization. And I think that was very, very cool, especially like that first half of Iron Man 3, like before we find out that version of the Mandarin is fake, is really, really neat. And I wouldn't be surprised if there are plenty of references to Iron Man's 1 and 3 up in this movie. But I mean, Shang-Chi, as from what little I know about the character himself, I mean, is he's kind of the Jet Li of Marvel Comics. I mean, he's a kung fu master, and I mean that's kind of his thing. But he's actually Asian, unlike Iron Fist. Not that I dislike Iron Fist.
I was gonna say the same thing. I was just gonna be like, yeah, he's fancier Iron Fist.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I believe he might actually have some superpowers. Again, I don't actually know much about the character, but that's kind of one of the things that I'm so excited about. This is that, you know, they're pulling deep, but I mean, you know, the MCU has such a great track record. I mean, it's like, I think of just like the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, who gave a fuck about the Guardians of the Galaxy before that movie came out? And so I know that they'll adapt the character really, really well and make him very, very cool. And so
looks like his abilities are a master martial artist and then mastery of chi. So he might have some energy blasts in there.
Kamehameha.
Yeah, Kamehameha.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby.
He's
Marvel's Goku. That's, I mean, it's like there's what's cooler than that.
Here.
The Mandarin's actually going to be his master Roshi. What was that, Austin?
It says here that later in the Avengers, I'm assuming it's referring to the comics, he somehow gains the power to create countless duplicates of himself.
I saw that of like powers formally. It was like duplication. I was like, all right.
That's the Naruto Shadow Jutsu.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe it's like that thing that Doctor Strange did in Infinity War, where he just had like 100 of him to confuse Thanos.
Yeah.
Right. I can see that.
I'm holding on to the Shadow Jutsu thing.
Listen, I'm excited to see this. Like you said, Chris, it's weird, but like cool, and like I want to see the Mandarin and like, you know, 10 rings.
Plus, I mean, it's like they can go all out and just, I mean, stylize it like a kung fu movie, which I think we don't get enough of these days.
That'd be awesome.
And also, I'm looking, you know, if you look closer at the title, The Legend of the 10 Rings. I wonder if it's going to be about him tracking whether it be the organization or the actual rings down, because they're kind of just like they're a legend. Yeah.
Which I feel like at some
that one
point
is supposed to debut this July, so you know.
Which is so soon too.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. Like the rollout schedule for this is they're all so close. Like after like a year and a half of no Marvel, suddenly the entire year is all Marvel.
Right.
It works out in a bit where like Endgame was like this, not finale to the whole thing, but this finale of the first saga that we went through, the first 10 years, whatever you want to call it. And now it's like, well, the next chapter. Like, I know we're still using the phrase phases where you have phase 4, phase 5, and we do, but I would say like phase 1 through 3 are like chapter 1 of like this one overarching story.
Yeah, this
Infinity
is a
Saga.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a soft reboot for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Another movie coming out still within 2021. Lastly, The Eternals.
My God. I just
Kumail Nanjiani.
I was about to say,
It's
you saw what Kumail got? Oh my God.
Yeah. I was literally just about to say that too. I just recently saw another photo of him on Instagram, and he is still
his
shredded.
jaw has muscle.
Bro, I was about to say his jaw got huge. How did his
Not
face
fair.
get shredded?
It's not fair.
One way, let's be honest. Like your face doesn't get shredded
God.
naturally.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Who cares? I don't give a fuck whether he uses steroids or not.
Oh, he
looks
definitely does.
incredible.
I'm not shaming him for it because I'm sure he's also doing it in a healthy way.
I
but,
want
like-
to use steroids. I want to look like Kumail Nanjiani.
All right, guys, we'll start
Jesus
now, and we'll do a
Christ.
check-in in 6 months. Let's just see.
Exactly.
Fuck, bro.
I like it.
I'm not competing. Who cares if I use steroids or not? You know, whatever.
But yeah, I mean, so Eternals. Again, I don't know too much about these comic characters, which is, I think, part of the fun now in that stage we're getting in the MCU where they're like, oh, we are really going for the D list.
Right.
Yeah.
They're really reaching in, but
Great cast for Eternals.
Oh,
Eternals, like,
Right, yeah.
apparently takes place in the past. Yeah, one. Okay, yeah, you're right. The cast. We have what? Angelina Jolie.
Mm-hmm.
Jon Snow.
John's. Yeah, I was gonna. What's his real name again?
Yeah.
Kit Harington.
Yep.
Cat Harington.
Kit.
Kit Kat.
It's Kat Harington.
What do you
Kit
Kit
Kat. Kit
Kat Harington.
Cap.
Kit Kat. Yep.
Oh no.
Richard Madden is also in it.
Isn't John Cena in that
Salma
movie?
Hayek.
Or am I confusing that with Suicide Squad?
Is he?
That's Suicide Squad.
That's
Okay,
Suicide
yeah,
Squad.
that's it.
How
That's
dare
it,
you.
yeah.
Everybody's in Suicide Squad.
But Eternals is this weird thing where I think it takes like it's a prequel because like they're eternal. They've been around the whole time. So I think we're going to see them in different periods of the MCU.
Yeah.
And there's been talk about Thanos making some sort of an appearance in it because of when it takes place. Maybe they have an interaction with him. Maybe they know of him being a threat.
Well, because the Eternals, I think, don't they relate to the Infinity Stones in some way, shape, or form?
Well, it's my understanding, and I'm sure somebody in the comments will correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, it's originally in the original Infinity Saga in the comics. The idea was that Thanos was collecting the Infinity Stones, one to just have this ultimate power, but also to create such widespread destruction as to gain the favor of Lady Death.
Yep.
Yes.
Like literally the physical incarnation of Death, who I believe is related to the Eternals in some way, shape, or form. Like I don't know whether she's part of like the group, the Eternals, but she is an Eternal.
So, looking at their comic history, the Eternals are basically, I'm not going to get into the whole science aspect of it, but they're basically more Celestials, kind of like Ego. Mm-hmm. They just choose to, rather than being a living planet that produces a person to talk to, they, as a Celestial, choose to appear humanoid, so that you're actually seeing what, you know.
I was going to say they're gods, but then I remembered we already have gods.
Right.
We've already seen gods in the MCU.
Like Ego said, they're gods with a small g.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're a level above like the Asgardians, basically. Like
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you wanted to get more into it, it looked like the way they describe it, because the wording is so weird, but it makes sense. They're an offshoot of the evolutionary process that allowed sentient life to come on Earth. So they're just part of, they're just more advanced humans. Kind of, like you said, they're basically better Asgardians.
It's I mean, these things are basically like, a lot of like Marvel fans like to essentially put characters in like a
box.
like a power tier level.
Tiers, yeah.
And so I mean, Eternals are up there. they're
like right below
crazy strong, and it's to the point where I think that movie is going to have to answer somehow why they weren't around during the whole Thanos thing.
So that's what I was going to say.
They'll make Thanos look like nothing.
The plot is the Eternals have hidden themselves for thousands of years and have chosen to reunite because of what their actual enemies are, not a threat to the people of the universe or Earth. Their personal enemies, the Deviants, and Deviants are just Eternals in terms of what their power and their ability and their backstories are, but basically they chose the bad path. Yeah.
Cool. Where it's like angels versus demons kind of thing, but comicized.
Yeah. So I mean,
cooler.
I'm into it. Like, let's fuck around. Let's see some weird shit. Let's see Thanos as a baby or whatever. I don't know how long back they're gonna go. But yeah,
I would be surprised if it was kind of both, where it kind of some of it takes place like during the Marvel, and then also kind of goes past it. Like I think the movie could potentially take place like over a very long period of time.
I think it's confirmed to take place at one specific point.
Okay.
But that might just be what they're saying because they don't want to say that it's going to jump around. Mm-hmm. Also, for all we know, I mean, it could be a prequel, and then they chose to go back into hiding after their job was done.
Yeah.
Who's to say? I'm assuming they're not making this movie for no reason. It's going to have to connect to something later on.
Right.
Yeah. They'll have to figure that out though, because I mean, it's like an Avengers level threat. Like they could just stomp on it. Like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So next thing on the list, Loki. Which that trailer that came out, Owen Wilson.
Wow.
Looks great.
Wow.
Loki apparently was DB Cooper or Dominic Cooper.
Love it, dude. Love it.
That part was the coolest.
What a genius trailer overall. That was my favorite thing that came out of like the Marvel side of the
in terms of the trailers.
Was the Loki trailer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's just what an incredible concept to take like the Loki that we briefly saw in Endgame and be like, hey, Loki's still alive, but this is Loki as we knew him.
This is Loki
in 2012. Like this is before he got good.
Yeah, this is Loki before
exactly.
any of his character development. And like, say what you will about Thor: The Dark World as a film, Loki's arc starts in the Dark World.
Yep.
So now we have none of that. We have the Loki that dreams of conquering any people. He got the Space Stone, which for some reason allows him to travel through time, even though it's not the Time Stone. That part I'm still lost on, but
I think he's still just stuck in 2012.
Yeah, as I say,
But then
I
somehow
think
he gets in touch with the time people.
The time
he's
variance
still in that
authority.
thread, and I think yeah, something's going to happen in the show that will allow him to be
the time variance authority will probably like look at, I don't know, their computer schematics, I don't know how they work, and be like, that's not right.
Yeah.
And then go after Loki, which seems really
because
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and because it's really interesting because I mean it's like we said earlier, Endgame really laid down the rules of how time travel works in the MCU, and they do a good job of kind of beating you over the head with it. With it's like, hey, it's like once you're done with this, you have to return everything as it was, otherwise this timeline changes.
Creates a branch. From my understanding, is like only if it's big enough to change a huge outcome does it become another branch.
Right.
If I go back in time and reveal myself to one hot dog vendor so I could eat, I don't think I'm causing a branched society then.
Depends on the vendor.
I think by definition it is, because it's a branch in where that hot dog vendor saw you, and that automatically makes it different from Mars, and that could butterfly effect into all of something else. And I think that's the point to where at the end of Endgame, of course, Cap returns everything that they took, like they put it back. And so when you see everybody sitting at the end of Endgame, they're assuming like, okay, everything's back to normal as it was, except in this one timeline, Loki got the Space Stone and took off. And so I think that's where we see like the time agency come in and be like, hey, motherfucker, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And I think it's, again, the recurring thing of just, it's going to get weird and wild, and I'm so here for it.
It's
and
going to get weird
in the MCU, and it's going to be great.
And I would argue that this is the one show or / movie where we're following the villain, because the Loki we are following is a villainous Loki.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Now maybe he's going to go through the character development in the show. Maybe he peeks into the future. Who knows? I really don't know.
Curious to see if Thor is going to show up in the show at all.
I'm curious to see if there's a scene where the TVA, is that what the little acronym is? I'm not sure. But the TVA has like a scene with Captain America, because he had to go back in time and re-put everything back. So I think that'd be a cool little teaser to just shoehorn him in there.
I would put money on Thor before I do Cap, just because at this point I think it's going to be one. Chris Hemsworth is returning to the MCU. He's not done after Endgame. And I think that Marvel doesn't want us to keep going back to those characters, like other than the voiced appearances in What If, which we'll get to next. We're not seeing RDJ again.
Yeah.
And I think they would want to do that with Cap as well. But like, I mean, I agree with you. I'd love to see that.
Well, I think Chris Evans has already come out and said, he's like, hey, I'm done.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not. He's like, I think the statement he said, he's like, maybe in a few years he might do like a small appearance.
Hayden Christensen, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield all said they were done.
That's different. Don't say no to the fucking mouth. That's such a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, there's been updated cast lists, and people are wondering now, because, both in the comics and then in Norse mythology itself, Loki, a shapeshifter, has taken on many different age ranges and many different gender appearances. And so people are wondering if we're going to get an older Loki at some point, and based on the casting, if we're going to get a younger and female version of Loki.
That would be fun.
Yeah. I mean, this one comes out May 2021, so I mean, we're getting WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, Loki, pretty back to back to back.
I mean, Love and Thunder is already confirmed to have Lady Thor in it. Why not Lady Loki?
That's true. Very true. And we mentioned the DB Cooper thing. I mean, there's just those scenes where it all went really fast. You know that shit's gonna go down. There's that scene where everybody thinks it's probably Natasha in like this, like purplish colored battlefield.
Right.
So yeah, who knows where it's gonna go? And on the same note of like, who knows where it could go / we have What If, which is literally what if things in Marvel went like this.
Honestly,
which is what I'm most excited for.
I was just gonna say.
So. I'm very excited for this one just because they can literally do anything. None of it's canon. It is what if. It is animated, which is new for the MCU.
So
it is.
Yeah. I don't think the two that they.
Go ahead, Al.
The two that they teased. What was it? It was Peggy becomes Captain America, and then
Captain Carter's what Peggy goes by when she takes it. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Basically, she gets the super soldier serum, and then the other, what I understood was, it was either T'Challa or Killmonger. One of the two get picked up as Star-Lord.
It's T'Challa because they pick him up from Wakanda, not from New York, or whatever's the city that Killmonger was in.
I assumed it was Killmonger because he was just saying, "I'm wandering." He's a wanderer.
Yeah.
So that just made me assume that it was Killmonger, but I can see
it is confirmed to be T'Challa because this is actually going to be the last appearance of Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa in any way, shape, or form. Because he was able to record all his lines. Yeah, rest in peace.
That's cool. That's cool.
In the Disney Investor Day, they also confirmed they will not be recasting him, and Kevin Feige in some of his interviews the past few days has been like, we will not CG him. If we have any footage where we have to use him, they probably will, but like, they're not going to force it. And that's Ryan Coogler is just working on rewriting the script. Also, sorry, just checking back on this. Loki's also confirmed, like Falcon Winter Soldier, 6 episodes, 40 to 50 minutes. But yeah, what if is like could get wonky with it.
And I'm sorry, I know we're going into a little bit, but I mean, it's like as far as like continuing series, like Loki, I think is the one that I can see being a recurring series just because of the concept.
Yeah, and I think that one is confirmed that it's going to be at least 2.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they've already talked about doing a season 2 of. Now, as far as to just lightly touch on Black Panther real fast, I know it's a long shot because he died in the first one, but I would love to see Killmonger come back in the next Black Panther movie. But the what if one though, the biggest draw for me is I'm weirdly, it's like I'm excited about it, but the hype hasn't hit me yet, and I mean maybe that's just me. I want to see more of it. I need to see how it looks. But the Marvel Zombies teaser that we got, because we know there's a Marvel Zombies episode coming, is the one I'm really excited about.
They confirmed only some of the episodes. I'm trying to remember what else they confirmed, because they confirmed the Marvel Zombies, they confirmed Captain Carter, T'Challa as Star-Lord, and then there's episodes they haven't even told us what they might be. The comics have done some pretty interesting what if things, but we don't really have the ability to do the same ones.
I would absolutely love something to do with Deadpool in this what if series, now that they kind of have that in there.
The what if that was a comic was Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. Yes. That was a what if.
Yep.
It's a really popular one too. And if you haven't read Marvel Kills the Marvel Universe, by the way, absolutely, or Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, absolutely read it. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
And dark and gritty and brutal.
It's all of it at the same time. We also know that whichever one's going to be about Tony, we don't really know what the plot is. It's going to have something to do with him during the events of Iron Man 2, because they cut to the shot of him in the donut, which is a mood, by the way.
It is.
Best Iron
it's one of my favorite gifts.
For sure.
Best Iron Man movie.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, what if? I think that one's going to be a continuing series. They literally have endless ideas. Going to be narrated by Jeffrey Wright, who's also going to be playing a watcher, saying we're going to peek into these what if pockets of the world.
That's awesome.
And yeah, basically any character that is from a movie will be voiced by, at least for the first season, is going to be voiced by their actual actor. So it is actually going to be Chris Evans voicing Steve. It's actually going to be RDJ voicing Tony.
Have him go for record some lines, you know?
Get a little like they're all one episode for the most part per season. So like, they need a day or two, and I mean, I want to see this show in 5 years once they're like, fuck it, we got to think of really weird ideas.
Yeah,
like I want to see that. I want to see the weirdest what ifs, because like, fine, what happens? We don't like one episode. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because like it being an anthology series lends itself to them trying so many ridiculous ideas.
Well, the fact
also,
that
I'm just down. I'm sorry, I'll go ahead.
Being 6 to 8 episodes, do that once a year. You know, like you can come up with such cool stories with that.
Plus, I mean, it being an
Absolutely.
animated show, one, I'm so down to have an animated show in the MCU.
Yeah.
I mean, as obviously a big Star Wars fan, we have new Clone Wars and Rebels and Resistance and the upcoming Bad Batch, and I think a good animated show is something that the MCU has been missing. But I mean, also it's like due to the nature of animation, it's like they can get super weird with it without having to be restrained by it by having like live action cameras and sets and all that. And granted, I mean, it's not like special effects aren't at a point where they can't get crazy nowadays. And I think we absolutely see that in the MCU already. But I mean, I feel like it opens it up even more so.
Not cost a bajillion dollars.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And, I think they have stuff from the comics to pull from. They have probably questions that people have asked, like, well, what if it went down this way? And they're like, let's look into it.
Yeah.
Right.
Then that one is also coming out summer 2021. So I'm excited for that one.
Yep.
It's gonna be a good year.
Exactly. The big one I want to see from the comics, though, is what if Peter Parker becomes the Punisher?
That's man.
What?
Yeah, dude.
Tom Holland.
That'd be amazing, bro. Can you imagine Tom Holland trying to be a Punisher?
In an animated style, that would be the perfect show for me.
That'd be hilarious.
I could totally see Tom Holland just having a ton of fun with that, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So, next one we have is a mixture of two things that are going to interconnect. We have Ms. Marvel and Captain Marvel 2.
Yes.
So, as for Ms. Marvel, we know that it's supposed to be coming out sometime this year. It is going to be a live-action adaptation of Kamala Khan coming into the MCU. I think Marvel's been pushing Kamala Khan... Well, I mean, I was mistaken. I thought Marvel's been pushing Kamala Khan a lot lately, but in terms of her own comic series, she hasn't had one in a few years, and I hope that changes. Because they're pushing her with the Avengers game. She was in Ultimate Alliance 3. She's now, the story arguably the best part of that game.
I don't even think it's arguable.
No, it's awesome. Yeah.
It was a fantastic story. Her performance blew me away. She's a fun character, and I feel like, Miss Marvel is so important for diversity in comics. But I feel like every comic reader relates to her because she's also a fan of the hero she's working with.
Mm-hmm.
So that means a lot. And the reason why I said, this is confirmed to be in conjunction somehow with Captain Marvel 2. In the comics, Kamala Khan, when she gets her powers, gives her namesake because she's such a fan of Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers. I think the origin is she saw her fighting once and that inspired her, and that becomes her favorite superhero. We don't know if we assume Captain Marvel 2 is taking place chronologically way past the 90s, past Endgame, because other than what they've said of Eternals and Black Widow, nothing should be a prequel. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming that Kamala sees her in her second time on Earth and whatever the events of Captain Marvel 2 are. Mm-hmm. The description from Complex, which I'm assuming they're getting from Disney in some fashion, says that she's developing superpowers of her own. So I don't know if they're going to go with Inhumans and Terrigen Mist. Inhumans didn't do that well.
Right.
I don't think so.
I doubt it. I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up setting up the groundwork for X-Men.
Mutant?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, you're right.
After the snap?
Yeah.
Is that causing something weird to happen?
Mm-hmm. We don't have any number of how many episodes this is supposed to be. This paragraph gives nothing about Captain Marvel 2 other than that we know it's happening, and this time it's being directed by... I know last time it was a writing, directing team. Mm-hmm. I think this time it's being just directed by the same director, but I think they're brother-sister duo, aren't they?
Yeah, something like that. Some main detail.
I had it in my head that it was Patty Jenkins, is it not?
No, that's Wonder Woman.
Okay. I don't know why I thought that.
Okay, it was Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck. This time it's only going to be Anna Boden.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, and Miss Marvel, all of her episodes, not all of them will be directed by women, but the ones that are not directed by women are being directed by Pakistani Americans.
That's cool.
So
cool.
we're making sure that, you know, we don't shy away from addressing her diversity in both her ethnicity and her gender, which, you know, the MCU's Marvel Comics as a whole has needed for a while. Marvel as a company has needed for a while. The MCU has needed. So it's a fresh face, and like my friend was watching Investor Day. I wasn't because Game Awards. But like the girl who's casted to play her is just like
she looks like her.
She looks like her.
Yeah.
She is like, my friend calls her adorable, which like I get, like it's a kid superhero. I think, you know, Peter is kind of in the older teenager range, kind of phasing out of it. Like we have just like a very excitable, fun personality now. And I think that's going to add a lot of. I feel like it could go a lot of places.
And I mean, we talked about like the ethnicity of the character, like possibly being a big like potential storyline in Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's like, I don't think that there's any way that this isn't a huge part of the Ms. Marvel show, because that's such a big part of her character in the comics, like even more so than it was for Captain Falcon.
Yeah, and the writer is the person who's writing it is helmed by the same person who wrote 4 Weddings and a Funeral, Bisha K. Ali.
Yeah.
And let me just verify something before I say it.
I mean, that was already just like it was.
Yeah, I can't find it anywhere.
Like the Avengers game, it's a huge part in the comics. Like that's just dealing with that is just a part of that character. And I think that's I'm glad we're finally getting something like that within the MCU, because it has been a lot of white dudes.
And I can't, you know, I can't say this with right now what I'm about to say. I can't say with 100% accuracy because I haven't found it anywhere. But I believe Bisha K. Ali is herself a Pakistani woman, if not maybe Indian or But I do know that she herself is a woman of color. So it's all, you know, being incorporated. And like, you know, Ms. Marvel, you're right, it plays a bigger role in her character. I mean, her costume incorporates a hijab.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, you're hitting on a lot of different things. I also really like the logo, where it's basically like the Captain Marvel, and then they took the same M, but the S is very stylized.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything to say before we go to the next one?
Not really.
Nada.
All right, next we got Hawkeye. I mean,
very excited about this one.
Fracture storyline.
Also supposed to come out this year.
Yeah, based on Fracture, which is just.
I still need to read it.
Oh,
but yeah.
It's so good.
It's on my to-do list to read the.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
Honestly, though, I might just wait until this actually comes out before I read that, just so I don't get spoiled by anything.
Spoiled, yeah. I can see.
Nah, read it.
Read it. Okay, you convinced me.
We do know that it is going to be about.
Didn't take much.
About Clint and Kate Bishop. We also, you know, like we said before, it's basically been confirmed that Florence Pugh is appearing in it. And we don't really know much else. We don't.
Jeremy Renner and Haley Steinfeld.
Yeah, it's not going to follow the Fracture storyline 1-to-1. It's going to be based off Fracture in the same way that Civil War is based off of
Civil War. Yeah.
Like I mean, yeah. So I think you'll get more out of the show if you have read Fracture than if you waited until after. But I mean, yeah, Haley Steinfeld I think is just excellent casting to play.
From what I've heard, yeah. Kate Bishop.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are also getting, you know, speaking more about diversity, obviously we're getting Kate Bishop, female superhero. We're also getting a character named Maya Lopez, who is known as Echo in the comics. In the comics, Echo is a deaf/hard of hearing Native American, and so is the actress Alaqua Cox.
It was a very cool character.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Unfortunately hasn't appeared in much, so that's I'm excited to again. I mean, I feel like it's just for all of this Phase 4 stuff, they're pulling really really deep, and just with the way that they've shown time and time again that they're able to take these more obscure characters and make them something that general audiences love and adapt them so well. I mean, it gives me a lot of hope for where Phase 4 is going.
Absolutely.
If you would have told me like at the start of the MCU that I'd be excited about a Hawkeye show of all things, I would have called you crazy.
I know, right?
I'm pumped.
But I think part of that is due to being, everybody.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, everybody loves the Fracture storyline. So
it's legitimate. It's like, look, even it's like even on the same on that same wavelength of Austin being like, if you told me I'd be excited about a Hawkeye show, I'd call you crazy. I mean, it's like even within the comics, I don't much care for Hawkeye. But Austin, to address this for it, the Fracture is this. It's a 5-part mini series. That's literally the name of it is Fracture. That's all about like Hawkeye and Kate Bishop like going on this one particular mission. It kind of jumps around in like timelines and that sort of thing. But it's just kind of like a window into the character of Hawkeye. Especially like as he is in the comics. I mean, he's this really like rough around the edges, down on his luck kind of guy, and I don't want to say too much about it because it is very much worth reading. I mean, just get like the Marvel Unlimited app, like get your first like month free or whatever it is, and just read.
They're pretty cheap.
Yeah, Comixology. Just read Fracture. Like if you don't read anything else, read Fracture. Because it's just one of the best runs that I think Marvel has ever made. It's up there with like Infinity War and all of the greats. Just because it's so grounded, and I think it's the perfect. It's just the perfect base for a TV show because it's insular, it's grounded. There's some references to a couple things here or there. I mean, in the comics, in the Fracture run itself, you see there's one point where a bunch of villains get together for this auction, and Kate and Clint like disguise themselves and sneak in, and we see like Kingpin and a bunch of other villains and stuff, and it ties in around that. And so I'm hoping that because Kingpin's a part of the Fracture story in the comics, is like, come on, put Kingpin in the show, do it, you cowards.
But bring the guy from Daredevil in.
Yeah, bring the guy from Daredevil in. What's his name? He was perfect.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Do it, you cowards.
Yes.
So I think I lost
Vincent
you guys for a second before. Yeah. I think I lost you guys for a second before, but I caught up basically on what you said. While the Marvel tweet about it didn't give much, Complex says that it is based off Fracture, but that it's set to run out what Hawkeye's does on like his day off type of thing, and how Clint becomes a protector of an apartment building under siege from local gangsters. So if they wanted to, Kingpin could squeeze right into it. And this brings me back to another one of the things that Feige has said, where
Daredevil.
In an interview with... he's been doing a bunch of interviews. I think this one was from comicbook.com. People asked him about Jessica Jones, Daredevil. And basically all he said to the Marvel Netflix shows coming back was never say never. So who's to say?
To compound off of that, it's allegedly, but there are reports of, I can't remember the actress's name, but the actress that played Jessica Jones being on the set of the She-Hulk show. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's been seen on the set of She-Hulk. And I mean that's hot off the heels of Feige being like, maybe. That
makes sense. We're going to talk about She-Hulk a little bit more next. What I was going to say before, where I think my internet dipped for a second, was a lot of people are wondering, since like Jeremy Renner's not really the best guy on earth, and people are kind of annoyed by him, if they're kind of going to use this show as a way to steer more into Kate Bishop as Hawkeye rather than Renner, or rather than Clint, and kind of from here on out, let's focus on Kate Bishop.
I mean, even if that weren't the reasoning behind it, I can see them still just kind of steering towards Kate Bishop anyway, because we're already kind of seeing this passing of the guard.
Next generation.
Like Iron Man's gone, Cap's gone.
We're seeing the passing of the guard.
We're see Kate Bishop step in as Hawkeye rather than Clint Barton.
I don't think
it just thematically makes sense.
I don't think Jeremy Renner wants to do this forever.
He's getting old.
And Kate. Marvel does this weird thing where they kind of hint at stuff in all of their media. Because, I mean, Taskmaster was in the Avengers game, the Spider-Man game, and is the main villain of Black Widow. 2 years ago, I didn't know who the fuck Taskmaster was. So, they kind of tell you what their intents are. Who was the first DLC character for Marvel's Avengers was Kate Bishop, who, by the way, I love playing as. Like, side note, she plays beautifully.
I still need to pick her up.
She's fun to play as. I would say play through her story. So the reason why I froze before where I was like confused is a lot of it is going to be directed by Rhys Thomas,
Davis.
Just Rhys Thomas, I believe, and then also a directing duo, Bert and Birdie. Those are their actual names.
Bert and Ernie?
Oh, I thought, yeah.
Yes, Bert and Ernie. What the thing is, they decided to mention, like they'll tell you what like a director's most recent or best work is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Apparently, Rhys Thomas directed John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch.
Yes.
But that gets cut off in a sentence, so I read Hawkeye will be directed by John Mulaney. And I was like, wait, let me reread that.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, if you haven't watched John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch, that shit's hilarious, and you need to go watch it. At the very least, what was the name of the guy that played Mysterio?
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal's episode is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Okay,
it's fantastic. His whole bit is Mr. Music. I cried laughing at it.
So next one up is She-Hulk. Now before, no, let's not do it like that. So first, She-Hulk is one of the interesting one in the episode announcements today because Falcon, and the Winter Soldier, Loki, and I'll just spoiler for later in the podcast, Moon Knight have all been confirmed. 6 episodes, 40 to 50 minutes in length. She-Hulk are 30-minute episodes, but we're going to get 10 of them.
Interesting.
And that brings me to 2 things. One, Feige said that they're kind of just discovering the best way to do this because it's the first time Marvel is.
Yeah.
I also think it's good that they don't want to go in with a rule of like you have to have this many episodes or this length because it allows the writers, the directors, the showrunners, whatever you want to say, the people that aren't, the Marvel bigwigs, to tell the story in the pace and style that they want to, that they're not restricted to. It has to be this format.
Yeah.
So first off, I want to say that's good.
Absolutely.
Secondly, Chris, I know you were saying that Kirsten Ritter's been apparently spotted on set. My friend, who's more into She-Hulk and Jessica Jones than I am, has confirmed that Jennifer Walters, who is She-Hulk, uses Alias investigations a lot and uses Jessica Jones a lot. Another thing, and this is coming straight from Marvel
Walters
Twitter.
A lawyer.
Jennifer Walters, yeah, she's a lawyer.
Excuse me, yeah.
There was a rule.
Jessica Jones on the brain.
It's fine. She tends to actually her law is actually specialized in superheroes and whatever legal issue they're going through currently in, the Marvel universe, which is usually a lot. Her Hulk powers are a little different. I don't know how it's going to go in the show because they describe the show as a legal comedy, which I'm down for, but her origin story is pretty dark in that I believe her father is a security guard or a cop, and somebody comes after them and aims to shoot him but shoots her. And she loses a lot of blood. So in the moment, her cousin, Bruce Banner, donates his blood. And that gives her the Hulk powers. She can control them a little bit better, and it's her. So her powers are very different.
It varies from interpretation to interpretation.
Yeah,
I think the classic version of She-Hulk is I believe she was Bruce Banner's niece, and then there's been some interpretations where they were cousins or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
going by the ages in here, cousins make more sense.
Yeah, most likely she'll be a little older in this one. But depending on the interpretation, she either has slightly more control over them than Bruce does and is able to transform at will and do all these things, or the original line of She-Hulk is where she has the powers and then she's always Hulked, she's always green.
Yeah, that was a thing for a while.
She's less extreme. She doesn't. Hulk for her isn't a separate personality. It's more of it enhances her own abilities, but she keeps her brain.
She basically jumps to the level of Smart Hulk in Endgame.
Yeah.
From the get-go, and like you said, it's not as extreme. Even Smart Hulk physically, I mean, he's nowhere near where he used to be. It's still a fairly big creature. Mm-hmm. Whereas Jennifer Walters, when she's hulked out, it's just kind of more the best way I could describe it is a traditional Amazonian body figure and shape, where she is.
She's big, but she's not a monster.
She's well above average, but she is not crushes everything she touches. Huge.
So power level, she's not. Obviously, she's not on the level of Hulk though either, but she is still extremely powerful.
Yeah,
she's very, very strong physically.
And Mark Ruffalo has been confirmed to appear in the show. However, I will give $5 to anybody who can guess who else has been confirmed to appear in the show.
Ant-Man.
Krang.
Go for the nichest Marvel character you can think of.
Hawkeye. No. Let me think.
The kid from Iron Man 3.
No, he was already in the funeral.
Kraven the Hunter.
He can make a comeback.
Hasn't been in the MCU yet.
Oh, it's already in the MCU?
Oh,
yeah.
Wait.
Oh, already in the MCU.
Okay.
Hasn't been in the MCU.
They have been.
They have been.
Justin Hammer.
No. I
Elon
wish. God, I
Musk.
wish.
Damn it.
Elon Musk.
No. Alrighty. No one's going to get this.
Yeah.
Elon Musk.
Tim Roth is returning as the guy who becomes Abomination.
No fucking way.
From 2008's Incredible. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I did hear about
that. I don't know. Like, Marvel has been treating that movie like the redheaded stepchild as the MCU forever. And now they're like, we're bringing back Abomination.
Well, before it was Dark World. Then they made it good in Endgame. Now
that and Dark World was still always a Marvel thing, and like it was the same actors. Like the Incredible Hulk was like it was one time they changed the actors. We have never gotten anything out of it other than Thunderbolt Ross doesn't like Banner all that much.
Yeah, and I mean, Robert Downey Jr. was in the
post-credit scene.
But I mean, it was still. I mean,
there's one throwaway line to Bruce destroying Harlem.
It was still a Universal film. Like they very much just kind of ignored it.
For sure.
Yeah, but
that's cool. But also, you mentioned like all this like crossover across the other things. I mean, Abomination was in the Avengers game too.
That's true.
Like,
yeah, it's like they put you back in his mind.
Two villain boss fights.
Yeah, they put him back in your mind, and they're like, "Oh, guess who we're bringing back?" But yeah, they say Marvel described it as a legal drama. Like we said, she tends to specialize in superhero court cases. I know there's been there's been a rumor that Daredevil will be appearing in Spider-Man 3. We'll talk about that in a little bit later. But that rumor also spawned another rumor where they said they originally considered it being Jennifer Walters or She-Hulk as his lawyer. So I wonder if we'll see, if they do bring the Netflix characters back, if she's going to cross over with Daredevil, because they're both lawyers. They're both New York City-based lawyers.
Right. If I remember correctly, I think there's some interpretations of where she's a prosecutor, and he's a defense attorney.
See, I know her as a defense attorney because
she's primarily a defense attorney.
Because I know that she is big on letting the superheroes keep their identity while on the stand. And also, she has also defended supervillains that have been accused of something they didn't legitimately do. Even though they've done all this other stuff, she still thinks in a court of law it needs to be the truth.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying I'd have to go and find it, but I believe there was it might have even just been like a short story to where like an alternate.
They were on opposing sides,
where she was a prosecutor and he was a defense attorney, and so
interesting.
You had like the She-Hulk versus Daredevil, but in court kind of thing.
In court, yeah,
that's cool. Like she's
Law and Order, MCU.
I can almost I can almost guarantee she'll be a defense attorney in the show. Like that's like her thing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to bounce in a minute.
So next on the list is Moon Knight, which is one of the ones we know very little about. Even Marvel Studios' official tweet keeps it simple. Moon Knight, an original series about a complex vigilante, coming to Disney+. Starring, we do not know. There's rumors about Oscar Isaacs. There's been rumors about Andrew Garfield. There's been rumors about Kit Harington, which he obviously didn't take because now he's in Eternals.
Right.
And we also have confirmed today that Moon Knight is going to be 40 to 50 minute, six 40 to 50 minute episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, just like WandaVision.
Okay.
Right.
But yeah, we know very little.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I know very little.
I think it was Josh. I was going to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say, I still think Oscar Isaac much better served as Wolverine in the MCU than Moon Knight. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for. But it'd be cool to see him in Moon Knight too.
I'm interested. I don't know anything about Moon Knight, but I know there's a psychological angle, like a psychological horror kind of to his the way his brain functions, and that's what I'm intrigued to see.
So Complex describes him as a Batman-like vigilante who has dissociative identity disorder and superpowers granted to him by an Egyptian god.
Wait, both?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Feige never really said much about how they're going to handle the dissociative identity element of it. Marvel has said that it's going to take inspiration from adventure movies like Indiana Jones.
Just watch Split.
Yeah. I've also heard for a while that Marvel was just like, any actor we get from Moon Knight should be Jewish, because Moon Knight himself as a character is Jewish. But I think hearing the rumors of Oscar Isaac, that goal of theirs isn't really in a thing that they're focusing on anymore.
Right.
I think
just to comment on what you said earlier, Josh.
Yeah.
I think Tom Hardy should play Wolverine, just for the record.
Ooh,
but he's already Venom.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So?
And if they're because they're bringing the Sony and the MCU together, unfortunately.
Allegedly.
Morbius. Yeah, and so unfortunately, I don't think it'll work.
You're telling me if you're telling me I can't get Tom Hardy as Wolverine because of Morbius, I'm gonna shoot myself. Like, please no.
Morbius as a whole makes me want to shoot myself, dude.
Listen, I was like, I'm so like, I don't think the villains need movies. We're going too far with this. Morbius is whatever. Then I saw the ending of that trailer and I was like, fuck it, I am hyped for this.
Yeah.
When they showed Michael Keaton.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't.
Oh, that's right. I did. That's cool.
The Oscar Isaac thing is still being tossed around in rumors, and I know that one of the head writers on the show, wanted to tag Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight in an Instagram post, which I feel like should confirm it because he's a head writer.
Right.
But he also didn't do enough research to know that Oscar Isaac doesn't have an Instagram, so he tagged a fan account by accident.
No.
But that's the goal's still there. The goal is still for him to be like, this is Oscar Isaac. So I guess we'll see. There's not really much else we could say about Moon Knight.
I'd say I don't really know much about Moon Knight, but
I'm intrigued.
Man, he was OP in the first Ultimate Alliance game.
Was he in the first one?
Yeah.
There you go. There you have it.
I haven't played that one.
Al Bob seal of approval.
I mean, I just saying, I knew nothing about him, but it was so much fun playing as him in the first Ultimate Alliance game.
I want to know more about him because the people that like Moon Knight really like Moon Knight.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people screaming for this to happen for a while now.
Yeah. Another TV show we're getting, the release date to be announced, Secret Invasion.
Which is basically the end credit scene to Captain Marvel.
Is it though? Is it? Because
that was the one where he was up in the space station, right?
Yeah, and we found out that basically he planned that out on purpose, and that he just told Talos to be like, "Yeah, you be me. I got shit to take care of up here."
Oh, right.
Marvel Studios' official tweet just says Samuel L. Jackson is back as Nick Fury, and Ben Mendelsohn is from Captain Marvel returns as the Skrull Talos. That's basically where their tweet starts and ends.
Yep.
I like it. I can't remember the name of the Shield in space. What that organization is?
Sword.
Right.
Yeah.
Sword. Yeah.
Sword and Shield.
Right.
I'm really curious about this one because while we don't know much, I don't know when it's supposed to take place. Like, is it jumping around the timeline of the MCU, and apparently Skrulls have been everywhere in secret? Or is it all post-Endgame or post-Far From Home, where we learn more about what Fury's up to?
Could be a bit of both.
Could be a bit of both. That's the thing, is we know nothing. We know absolutely nothing, but I'm interested. Secret Invasion's a cool storyline.
Yeah, they set it up well with the Captain Marvel stuff, so I'm in.
I feel
it's also going to be interesting to see, if the whole point of Secret Invasion, what they're going to do now, because they basically went and made the Skrulls good guys in Captain Marvel, so I don't know, maybe they'll be like, oh, this is a rogue group.
Yeah, I was going to say a rogue sect to them.
Yeah. We also know that we're getting a Ironheart show, which is next on the list.
That's cool.
Don't know when it's coming out. We just know that it is going to be Riri Williams, which I think is surprised a lot of people that for a while there's been a thing where a rumor where people thought maybe Shuri would become Ironheart in the MCU. Right. I think Shuri now has bigger roles to fill, possibly with Black Panther 2. We don't really know. We also don't know if they're going to distance themselves from Letitia Wright. But so, you know, if Shuri becomes a bigger character and we get Ironheart, Marvel has basically given us 2 black female superheroes around the same timeline, which is a good move on them.
Absolutely.
It's kind of building out the Young Avengers.
That's what I've been saying. It's like, oh, they're really going young. Like, it just sounds like we're doing a Young Avengers movie, which I'm all for. I've said it before on this podcast. I love teenage superheroes. Like, I don't know what it is, but that's a niche that I'm like, you got me.
Right.
I mean, Sky High.
Sky High, Power Rangers, Young Justice. Just give it to me. Give it all to me.
Teen Titans.
Yeah. But yeah, we know who Riri Williams is. For those who don't, Riri Williams is a black female 15-year-old who is a genius in her own right at her age, went to college early and goes to MIT at 15 years old, and basically starts making her Iron Man suit. This catches the attention of Stark, who gives her his blessing to kind of take on an iron name, and he helps her get suits. She hasn't had an ongoing series since 2019.
So is Tony Stark in this? Like,
no, I don't think they're going to take that. Again, that was just the comic origin.
Could even just be like a message or something, like something he's just voices. You know, it doesn't have to actually be him.
Right.
Again, kind of like that same thing.
I wonder,
if he just comes in for a day for What If, just like, hey, record these couple voice lines for Ironheart.
I could see them doing it like halfway, where they're like, oh, it's a Tony Stark scholarship type of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
That Happy or Pepper for sure.
Happy or Pepper, kind of giving the blessing on his behalf.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of things that are mildly,
or is it just a phone call or something?
Yeah. And in another show that's going to be mildly related to Iron Man lore, we have Armor Wars, Don Cheadle's own show.
That's awesome.
We got a Rhodey show. I tweeted that as a joke 10 minutes before Disney Investors Day. And we got it.
And this is going to be what, against Hammer?
You did it.
So here's the thing. All that Marvel described it is a classic Marvel story about Tony Stark's worst fear coming true. What happens when his tech falls into the wrong hands? Date is to be announced. And Armor Wars is according to Complex, one of the most famous Iron Man stories. The other one, being Demon in a Bottle, is the story that was loosely adapted for Iron Man 2.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, so we know it's going to be about Rhodey. We might cross over with Ironheart and see Riri Williams.
Mm-hmm.
And we just know it's about what if the tech falls into the wrong hands. We don't know if it's Hammer. We don't know if it's maybe just kind of organized crime. We don't know if it's a bigger villain.
Elon Musk, back at it again.
Well, this Complex article, it does say it could be the return of Justin Hammer, or even the introduction of Ezekiel Stane, the son of Obadiah Stane.
Yeah, and all of those make sense in some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, man, I'm just excited. I love Rhodey. Like, Rhodey is my favorite side MCU character. Like, there's just something about him.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, we don't really know much on that.
Man, Chris left on the stuff we don't really know much about.
Yeah.
He picked the perfect time to leave.
What if it was what if it was the first guy that played Rhodey? What if
Terrence Howard?
Oh, yeah, exactly. We do some multiverse stuff. We got
that would be awesome.
No.
Terrence Howard versus Don Cheadle.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That would be awesome.
Right?
Okay.
I think so.
All right. Next thing, I think this might be the biggest news that came out of Disney Plus Investor Day. In 2022, we're getting the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special.
Love it.
Cool.
I don't really know why this is a thing.
Right?
No.
No.
Complex says Feige mentioned leveraging Disney Plus to distribute projects that they normally wouldn't have had a place for. So
Makes sense.
Guardians of the Galaxy very special Christmas.
I am Groot.
I kind of want this to be just like so bad it's good. Like I don't even know. Like,
yeah, I can see
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
I just need them to lean into what this is. Like it's a Guardians holiday special. Go all out. Don't half-ass it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Bring back David Hasselhoff as Santa Claus or something.
No,
Like,
that's what I'm saying.
just
Is like I need them to
do it.
be like if you're doing this, I want the Christmas aspect to be all out. Like
Yeah.
literally, the power of Christmas or friendship should be why they beat whoever the villain is.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also are getting, I think, an Baby Groot series. That's just I think going to be a bunch of shorts.
Yeah.
I don't know. That just kind of seems like they're milking the Baby Groot thing. Cool.
Right.
I don't think any of
Well,
these are
after the
really going to
success
play
of
into the
Baby Groot.
MCU.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd love for the holiday special to become a throwaway line in some point
Oh yeah.
where like they mentioned the time they saved Santa and everybody looks at them like, what the fuck are you on about?
That's good. That's good.
That's
Any more Baby Groot for me though, and I'm in. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. No shame.
Yeah, but yeah, we don't really know much. Whatever. More Guardians. I'm down.
Yeah.
Next thing on the list is something that wasn't really mentioned in Investor Day, but just putting it out there that it's still happening. Blade was announced at Comic-Con 2019. Not probably fitting into Phase 4. All they gave us in Comic-Con was we're working on it, and it's going to star Marshala Ali as Blade, and I think they're still working on the plot and all that. So we're not getting it anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think this goes back to kind of what we were saying towards the beginning of this, where it's just like, this is one of those ones where like, I'm ready for Marvel to get weird. Like we're bringing vampires into the world now.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally agree.
We also now, because we're getting Blade and Moon Knight, have the possibility of making that comic panel come onto the big screen where it's Moon Knight walking down this giant, like historical looking staircase going, "Where are you, Dracula, you goddamn nerd? Where's my fucking money?"
Ooh, I like
That
it.
is
I like it.
I might have messed up the line. I might have swapped to like which part came first, but he calls Dracula a fucking nerd and asks, I don't know why Dracula owes him money. This is a real comic panel. I will send it to whoever's editing this to put up now.
Please.
Cool.
Yeah. It's probably not going to happen, but would I like it to happen? Yes. But yeah, no, Blade, I mean, cool. Again, I don't really know what else we could say. Vampires into the MCU is making it weird, and Blade, I remember him from the first Marvel Ultimate Alliance, Al. I don't really remember Moon Knight in it, but I remember Blade.
I vaguely remember Blade in it, yeah.
I wonder if there was like... Which console did you play it on?
I played it on the Wii.
Maybe it was one of those, because I played it on the PS2.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, any thoughts on Blade, guys?
One of those Marvel characters. Blade was always one of those Marvel characters for me growing up, where when I was a kid, I was like, Blade is a Marvel character? Like, what? Like, they coincide? That's not even possible.
I know what you mean, where it's like, here we have this world full of superheroes and stuff, and then meanwhile, Blade's just like, vampire hunting, and you're like, how did these...
Sure.
All right. You do you, buddy.
Exactly.
You think, is Doctor Strange going to be like tie into any of that at all, you think? Or
they haven't said.
But I'm just thinking kind of that whole
there's actually
magical kind of thing.
I remember seeing a lot of stuff about Spider-Man and Blade. I don't know what that carries, but I know there's something to do that brings them together.
I don't know how to feel about that.
I think the Doctor Strange
What,
stuff
Deadpool Blade?
Bringing Hugh Jackman's Van Helsing into Blade, and then they could have a vampire hunt show off.
Of course.
Al, you know what it was?
What?
Moon Knight was only available on, at the time, the next gen systems, PS3, 360, and Wii. So Moon Knight was only for the newer systems at the time.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so
yeah.
Next is Thor: Love and Thunder, coming out May 2022. We knew a few things. We knew it was going to be about Jane Foster. We knew it was going to be Taika Waititi again.
Perfect.
We knew Christian Bale was going to be in it. I was really hoping Christian Bale was going to be Beta Ray Bill. He's playing Gore the God Butcher.
Oh, really?
No idea who that is.
Yep.
Same.
But
it's exactly what it sounds like. He's a guy that's out to kill every god. He's a god butcher.
Interesting.
I like it. I like it.
So is Chris Hemsworth gonna die in this?
This is the thing. So what happens in the comics is Jane Foster gets cancer.
Yep.
And it's most likely incurable.
Yeah, I do know this.
And Thor goes, wait, what if you just become, like, let's see if you're worthy, and if you're worthy enough for Mjolnir, you will not die of cancer. And they try it, and she's worthy. So then there's this whole thing where, so she kind of takes on the mantle of Thor. Mm-hmm. Around the same time, I don't know if this happened before or after, there's this whole thing where Nick Fury whispers something into Thor's ear once during an event. I don't know if it was the real Nick Fury. And Thor no longer believes himself to be worthy and can no longer pick up Mjolnir. The thing Nick Fury whispered into Thor's ear actually had something, I think the line is like, Gore was right. Because I think Gore said something about how no god deserves any power, or maybe something specific about Thor. Mm-hmm. I don't know the minute details. So I'm wondering if this is going to play into all of those different things, but for now, we really don't know much because it's not coming out till May 2022.
Right. Still looking forward to it. I can't wait.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no. Again, I mean, like, I know we've said it 100 times, but like, it's getting weird.
Waititi can't go wrong.
Taika Waititi, and like, we saw what Ragnarok was like. Now we're getting even weirder in terms of the characters we're bringing in. Right. It's even more cosmic Thor. The way the Thor movies have gone cosmic, and so have Guardians of the Galaxy, we're getting that more.
Right.
And I think it's confirmed that the Guardians are making an appearance because last we saw Thor, he was
just
with
gonna
them.
mention that, yeah.
Right.
So, if they're with him for the whole movie, or if it's just kind of like we see him leave them, who's to say?
Yeah, they've done, like I say, since it's been a couple of years. Let's say they've been on adventures or whatever, doing whatever. Then he comes back because he hears Jane has cancer or something like that.
That's the other thing, is I'm really wondering how they're gonna bring Jane back, because we haven't seen her since Dark World. In Age of Ultron, he mentioned something about them breaking up. Then he's gone for a while. What?
I haven't seen her since Endgame.
True. Okay, fair enough.
Oh, right.
But I wonder what's gonna go on there with how they're bringing her back, how the message is gonna get to Thor.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for this one.
Heimdall.
Absolutely.
True. Oh, Heimdall's dead.
I love Heimdall.
Rest in peace.
Is he?
Pouring out for the homies.
He got stabbed in the first 5 minutes of Infinity War.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I know, but with the snap, does that incorporate?
He didn't die because of the snap.
No, he
didn't die because he died because of a good old fashioned stabbing. So they couldn't bring him back.
But there could be some
that he's not back.
But there also could be some.
When Hulk snapped his fingers, he was specifically willing. Yeah.
But there also could be some time mischief going on with Loki, so you never know.
I think that's where we see Heimdall.
Okay. Next one, I actually have a few things to say about, but the next Ant-Man movie is officially titled Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
That's cool.
We know Peyton Reed is back to direct.
Is it?
So I think we're finally getting to Spider-Man will probably be first, but up until now, we have yet to have one director complete an entire trilogy in Marvel.
Right.
Yeah, and I think right now it's lined up that the first one is going to be Spider-Man, and then Peyton Reed looks like he's getting number 2. So obviously it's going to be Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, Michael Douglas. We know, and they announced Jonathan Majors is going to be Kang the Conqueror, which we've hit on before. It's going to be the big bad of this movie, potentially the big bad of the next chapter of the MCU. Here's something that like annoyed me at first. It was like, I'm over it now, but it still seems like a weird choice. Catherine Newton joins the cast as Cassie Lang. Now, I'm going to preface this with, I love Catherine Newton. Like, I've only seen her in Detective Pikachu. I liked her in that. I think she's a fun actress. She really, she's a 20-something, so we're not getting a 30-year-old and being like, yeah, pretend you're 22. Like, it goes into this whole thing of like, oh, young Avengers, younger people. But what was the point of hiring older Cassie in Endgame?
Right.
And I know we saw her for a grand total of 30 seconds, but I kind of assumed that's the actress we were getting.
It was such a good scene, too.
It was like, I know we only see her for 10 seconds, but they're two very emotional 5-second bits because she runs up to her dad and hugs her. And then it's the end where it's them with Wasp. Why can't I remember her real name?
Evangeline Lilly?
No, like the character's real name. Hope, yeah. You know, and they're kind of bonding now, and it's this weird bittersweet moment where like they're mourning Tony and the time they've missed, but they're finally all together.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, no, just get us. I'm not gonna lie, I had a personal wish of Catherine Newton coming in to become the MCU's Gwen Stacy.
Oh.
I thought that she would have been a perfect fit in Spider-Man's cast of characters. So
I can see that, yeah.
Again, it's nothing against her. I just think that's a really weird choice when you gave us older Cassie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially in...
Part of me also feels bad for the original actress from the first two, because that girl was adorable and knew how to act against Paul Rudd and Yeah. And this movie has no release date, so maybe by the time it comes out, the original girl will be old enough to play Cassie.
Hopefully.
Not that they should recast her again, but you know. But yeah, so this one I think is gonna be where we really start getting a hint as I can't say it's gonna be the first one. So I think we have multiverse stuff going on. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
I think this movie's gonna start to bring it together in some way. Or worsen it. Maybe Scott fucks up. We don't know. But I can't imagine this movie isn't another one of those that doesn't play into that overarching story of the phase or the next chapter of Marvel.
Yeah.
Right.
I just think...
Surprisingly, it comes in with the heavy hitters for like plot devices, if that makes sense.
What was that?
Ant-Man always brings in like a really big like plot device for like going forward.
Yeah.
Like there's the whole quantum stuff.
Yeah, the quantum realm became a really big deal. This one's now called Quantum Mania because they've gotten better at traveling through it and discovering it.
Yeah.
So like,
I wonder if this is going to be like them like navigating and like mapping the quantum realm.
Maybe. And like, listen, Kang I know we said this about the Skrulls. I know we said this about Ultron, but hear me out. Kang the Conqueror is not a one-movie villain.
Oh, right, yeah.
He can't be. Mm-hmm. So this movie, I think, has to be... And I think we had rumors since Endgame ended that Ant-Man 3 was going to incorporate a lot of things. There were even rumors in it originally that it's going to be how the Fantastic Four appears, which I never believed, but people were saying it.
Right.
There were rumors that Hulk was going to be... Because Hulk still has yet to actually get his own movies. That he might just be working with them now since he helped run the quantum stuff. Yeah, you know, he did the buttons and the thing, and he was a baby. Then he was an old man. We saw it. We seen it.
Exactly.
Yeah. This definitely changes the Ant-Man series because they used to be like these weird breaths of fresh air where they weren't connected to everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, other than like a reference in the first movie in the post-credit scene in Ant-Man and the Wasp. So yeah, I think now we're getting, you know, Ant-Man's like you said, Austin, he's helping push this story forward now.
Right.
It just seems that way. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, with the title like Quantum Mania, it's like, you know, something big's going down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I also wonder if they're gonna bring back Ghost because she didn't die in Ant-Man and the Wasp, did she?
Oh yeah, that's
I completely forgot she existed.
I don't remember how her story ended, but I do know that she ended up forgiving them.
She just kind of walks off with him and what's his name?
Lawrence Fishburne?
Yeah. Like they both kind of just walk off and they're in an alley, a side alley, and they just kind of walk off. You don't really see what happens.
But they cure her, don't they?
I think so.
Yes, but she's still like very badly hurt and like just getting away from the authorities because she's still like killed people.
Yeah. So maybe she's not going to be in it. I don't know why I thought they left something with like a loose string.
I mean, they're still out there. So I mean,
true.
But she doesn't have any of her powers anymore. She's just
yeah.
Or I guess side effects because they're not.
Complex
really
is speculating that it could be that Kang the Conqueror makes an appearance because he has something to say about Scott's use of the quantum realm in time travel in Endgame.
Oh.
because he himself is a time traveler, and like I said, he
Right.
kind of deems himself to. He goes back and forth. He watches for that stuff. So yeah,
Makes sense.
Would that
no
bring
release date on this one.
would that bring in like Loki and what Loki's doing on his show with the
Possibly.
time
I
stuff?
don't know because so here's Kang the Conqueror isn't supposed to be taking care. He chooses to. He has bequeathed himself. I'm gonna take care of the time travel things. So
Right.
if Scott upset him, it's on Scott. But yeah, so no release date on Quantumania. I'm hyped. Like I'm like, oh wow,
Yeah.
there's a lot going on with this one. I've always found that Ant-Man movie's fun. Paul Rudd,
Oh,
a
yeah.
delight.
I love Paul Rudd. Yeah.
Oh
Yep.
yeah,
How can you hate him?
True.
for real. Like honestly, how can you hate Paul Rudd? All right,
Look at us.
look at us. Who would have thought?
Who would've thought?
He
I mean-
lives not too far from where I live. Like he grew up like about an hour north of me, and then bought out a local candy shop from like a city below him, above me, like in the middle. That was like gonna go out of business and just been there forever. And he will occasionally just work there.
Oh wow,
That's awesome.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
And like I know he was there around the time of Ant-Man and the Wasp or Endgame, I forget which, where they were just like, "Hey, he's working at Samuel Sweet's today." I'm like, "God damn it! I wish I could have went."
We're gonna have to send you out to do some like journalism for us, like around
Yeah.
the time of Ant-Man 3, and see if you
Mr. Rudd, Mr. Rudd.
exactly.
All right. So next is Black Panther 2, currently scheduled for July 8th, 2022. Funny enough, and I say funny loosely, this is actually one of the movies where we have a release date, but we don't even have a starring because we don't really know what's going to go on now with Chadwick's passing.
Right.
Like I said before, he is not being recast. He is not being CGI'd.
Right. That's
So Black Panther 2 is going to have to be about someone else taking on the mantle. I think the short list is Shuri and M'Baku.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then I also heard something
I would love to see
being. I was gonna say the other.
You mentioned Killmonger.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I heard because of the multiverse stuff that they could bring back a good version of Killmonger for him to.
Oh, interesting.
I think that would
be the
depend
villain.
on how much multiverse shit actually goes down.
Right.
Ryan Coogler has said that he wanted Black Panther 2 to be more about like Wakanda and telling their story. So he was obviously he was devastated by the passing of Chadwick Boseman, but he said that like the world of Wakanda extends so much beyond T'Challa that he can still tell the story he wanted to. Obviously there's going to be edits. Obviously it got delayed.
Right.
Yeah, I would say the short list is Shuri and M'Baku because
that's what I've
Okoye
heard, too.
can't because she's a Daramaje. I believe that's what they're called. But because she's part of the guard, she can't become the Black Panther. And then Nakia, we know, isn't into the whole superheroing.
Jordan, your camera went all green.
Oh.
Ooh.
Am I back?
Yep, you're good.
You're back.
Hi.
Yeah. So we know Nakia, her character's never really been about that stuff. She's been more about helping the less fortunate in a more literal way, Peace Corps type of thing.
Right.
So yeah, I really don't know which way it's gonna go. This movie, I have so many questions about. What was that?
Is there like a continuation in the comics beyond T'Challa? Like does T'Challa help?
Comics. In the comics, Shuri has taken up the mantle before.
Right.
But obviously the movies don't have to copy the comics. I wouldn't be surprised if Marvel wants to slightly distance themselves from Letitia Wright after she went on an anti-vax thing a few weeks ago. I don't know if anybody missed that.
I missed that.
Yeah. I also, if they were to make M'Baku Black Panther, if they want to make M'Baku a bigger character, I think making him Black Panther makes sense, or else they're going to really have to take liberties because M'Baku's powers and alter ego in the comics, I think, feels a little bit outdated. Because, everybody has their powers based off of an animal, and M'Baku goes by the name Man-Ape because he gets his powers from an ape like his character's more inspired by that. Obviously, I think the idea of, you know, putting a black superhero on the big screen and calling him Manape is not going to play off well.
Yeah, I can.
Like by any means,
yeah.
So I think they're actually going to have to make up a new name or just let him be the Black Panther. My money was on Shuri for a while, but now I really don't know which way it's going to go.
Killmonger somehow.
Last one on the list is Marvel's First Family, the Fantastic Four, directed by Spider-Man trilogy director John Watts.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
We know no one who's going to be in it. We have no tentative even release date. We just know, hey,
for Mr. Fantastic.
They're coming.
If you haven't seen that Photoshop, go over and check out Philip J. Woodward on Twitter. He did a great Photoshop of Rahul Kohli as Mr. Fantastic.
As Mr. Fantastic, yeah.
It's been going around like major news outlets, like they're picking it up. Philip's like, oh no.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he just did it as a goof one day.
It's basically been people have been begging for John Krasinski for years.
Yep, that's what
and now Rahul Kohli. I think so. I know Rahul Kohli's made a joke on Twitter where he's like, "You guys realize that like if I'm joking with you, it's most likely fake because I wouldn't get away with it if it was real."
Yeah, that's very true.
But at the same time, this movie isn't even close to being made.
We literally have
in production, so who knows at this point? Like, at this point, we just need a good Fantastic Four movie that is in The Incredibles.
Right.
We know nothing else. We know nothing about the plot.
Yep.
We just know who the Fantastic Four are. I'm assuming this is going to be an origin.
It's going to have to be.
Yeah, I'm really curious as to, like, what they'll do in terms of how much they'll change, how much they'll keep. Will they have it originally take place in the 60s and maybe they pop out in 2025 or whatever the fuck this comes out, / wherever the fuck the MCU is.
Right.
At that point, we really know nothing. I just think maybe the sale of Stark Tower that was going on in Homecoming, maybe that becomes Baxter Building.
I think that as well.
Yeah.
I really think that's gonna be Oscorp though. But I would love for it to be Baxter Building.
Yeah, you're right. Oscorp too would make sense.
Yeah.
So that was everything on the Complex article. We talked about the episode, but Feige has said a few more things today. We talked about the episode lengths. We have two. Okay, so Feige today confirmed Deadpool 3 will be in the MCU. It will be R-rated. Ryan Reynolds is overseeing a script. A few months ago, they announced the Deadpool 3 script is actually going to be helmed by some of the lead writers on Bob's Burgers. So we have, you know, I've never really sat down and watched Bob's Burgers all that much, but I know people really like it. I know it's very good comedy, so I trust them.
I trust Ryan.
I trust Ryan Reynolds, and you know, I think they know that Deadpool's like the best thing that came out of the properties they didn't own, so they can't fuck it up. You know, like
absolutely.
X-Men was mixed. Fantastic Four never really played off that well. Spider-Man at this point, we're just used to him becoming a new person every few years. Deadpool, they know they can't mess up.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, they know what's at stake here. They won't mess it up. I'm interested to see how they make it Deadpool 3, but still let it exist within the MCU. Obviously, he's gonna make jokes about it.
It's easy. He's meta as hell. Like
Well, even though he's meta as hell, I feel like the story still needs to be make sense in terms of continuity. You know what I mean?
Right.
True. I feel like they're just gonna have it be its own thing. They're gonna have it be its own thing, and
they did say MCU. So
I'm just saying it's gonna be its own thing.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be just titled Deadpool 3, just to be meta.
Yeah, absolutely.
I could see that where it's like a soft reboot, but they'll keep the number on it.
Yeah. I'd like to see it be like D and then 3, like the E is the 3, like.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I wonder if this is how they're gonna cast the next X-Men, because there's always been that joke of like, they could only afford 2 X-Men in the first one, and then they showed.
Oh yeah.
I show all of the. Oh yeah, where he goes, "Why is this place always empty?" And then there was just that cameo of them closing the door.
Yeah, and so if in this one that's how they announce the next X-Men, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Just a good joke.
I'll tell you the one joke that broke me in Deadpool 2, which lets you know that Deadpool canonically already knows about the Avengers. It's when he's fighting Juggernaut and goes, "Hey, big guy, sun's getting real low," while he's getting tossed around.
Yeah.
That joke broke me, and I was watching it with people that didn't really they liked Deadpool, but they didn't know the MCU. They're like, "What the fuck is so funny?" And I'm like, "Hey, they say that to Hulk," and like just yeah. But yeah, so we know it's coming. I think that's like the one that they're not rebooting from Fox or Sony.
Yeah, which makes sense. Everybody loves Deadpool,
rightfully so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And today Kevin Feige also said that there will be more Avengers films at some point, but not in Phase 4. I quote tweeted this and gave my personal thoughts where I said, I think this makes a lot of sense, and I know I said this off camera too, so you guys have already heard this twice now, but that I think Phase 4 makes a lot of sense for setup and kind of discovering where the world is without the Avengers and in a post-snap society.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Phase 5 will be like somebody realizing, something big's coming, I need more help, and then kind of going to the other heroes and being like, listen, we need to reform a team.
I know might be a season 2, but that would be really cool if that would be Kamala. In like season 2,
kind of adapt the video game storyline.
Yeah.
I could see that, although it's different this time because it's not really the tradition. It wouldn't be the traditional Avengers. It'd have to be new Avengers.
But that's what I'm saying.
Doctor Strange,
like it would be her going around to like all these heroes she's heard of.
Yeah, because she's gonna know about them if anyone does. She does.
Yeah,
right.
Being completely shut down by Deadpool. Deadpool's like, I don't want nothing to do with that. Bye.
Yeah.
Unless I'm killing these motherfuckers, I don't want anything to do with it. It shuts the door in their face.
Yeah.
He's wearing his Crocs.
Yeah.
Crocs and like Wolverine boxers or something. That's it.
Yeah, in 2019, Feige said, this is from the same IGN article, they're referencing. They actually might have been the one who interviewed him. He said that Phase 4 is about learning new things and about beginnings. He also originally said that there probably won't be. Yeah, and he said it back then too, so he hasn't really backed down on it. He was like, there is not going to be an Avengers film in Phase 4.
Right. I don't even know what that would look like that soon, honestly.
Yeah.
So like
exactly.
It makes sense.
I also think that means that they, in their minds, have an ending for because Phase 3 was long. Phase 3 was Civil War to Endgame, which is like more than Phase 1 and 2 combined. I'm pretty sure if I'm doing the math right.
So good.
Yeah.
I know. So it's almost like they must have a clear ending for Phase 4 if they're not going to end it with an Avengers film, or they don't think that they will. So we probably don't have an end in sight, but they do.
Yeah.
They've got plans 10 years, like the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Like
And final thing I'm going to touch on that he spoke about. This podcast is getting long, and I know we're going to want to go on a tangent about this, but we could do that another day. Spider-Man 3 rumors and casting.
Yeah.
Feige said that some of them are correct, some of them are incorrect. And obviously he's not going to tell you which is which. What do you guys think? Let's not talk about the ifs, ands, or buts and whether we like the idea of a live-action Spider-Verse or we dislike it or we think it's too much too soon. Just which casting do you think has been false and which do you think has been real?
I think it's got to be the Doc Ock. I think the Spider-Man are confirmed. Maybe Daredevil might be pushing it, but I think Doc Ock is the fake one. Alfred Molina or whatever.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me, honestly. I just that's the one that was announced where I was like, oh, okay.
That does make sense though, if you know the comics, because I think it's the Superior Spider-Man, I think is what it's called.
Right.
Where Doc Ock is Spider-Man. They like their brains swap. Yeah.
Yeah, but then you don't need Alfred Molina.
Yeah, but that goes into a lot of deeper shit.
Right.
And Alfred Molina died in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole thing why
Yes.
people are confused, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
but that's if it's multiverse though. It could be
it would be, you're right.
like the same thing, but it would just be There could be a different take on Superior Spider-Man or something, where it's Peter's brain in Doc Ock.
Okay, now I'm listening. You got me.
They're kind of in a rut because if the idea is they want to bring a villain from every iteration, you know, the Garfield stuff, Jamie Foxx turning into just blowing up, and he was pure electricity at that point. You could easily retcon into how he comes back.
Oh yeah.
Kurt Connors was just arrested. Harry was still alive, so like all of Garfield's villains are still there.
Rhino is we don't know because
last we saw of him, he was getting smashed with a manhole cover.
Yep.
Whereas in the Tobey movies, and I haven't seen him in a hot minute, but literally the only person we'd have left is Sandman. Because it's kind of like Electro, but with sand, where it's like, oh, you saw him drift away.
Well, he was going off on purpose, though.
Yeah, and at that point, he was also a good guy.
Yeah.
He
realized
so it'd be weird to bring him back as a villain.
What if they bring in Bruce Campbell for this one? Like Chris said, that would be Mysterio, but I did Mysterio.
That would be interesting, especially if it's like but where it's like Holland's Peter Parker dealing with like these two different Mysterios now.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
That'd be interesting.
And that could explain all the if let's say the 3 Spider-Man castings are real. Let's say that'd be cool, like having the 2 Mysterios come up and be like able to like bring back the illusions of all their enemies.
Right.
Yeah.
Super illusions.
Maybe that's how Alfred Molina is in it. He's more of a he's not real. Like we see him, but it's not actually him. Because that's the thing. If I had to choose one character, if I had to choose a villain from Tobey's to come back, I would pick Doc Ock.
Oh yeah.
Easily the best.
Yep.
Then
best one. A lot of depth going on there. I just don't think Doc Ock is I just like him as a character. I like his whole spiel. I would say I'm with Josh on this one. I think Charlie Cox's might be fake because those have really just been rumors.
That's the one where it has the most chance of being fake, but I want it so badly not to be.
Right.
But if they're trying to cram in a Spider-Verse movie, like, sorry, Daredevil, like, we don't got time for you.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I also assumed that if all these characters are in it, they're not all going to be major players.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I made the joke 100 times, and I'll continue to make it. I believe I willed the live-action Spider-Verse into existence. I have evidence going back from 2016 to support this. However, all we know is that these people are scheduled or confirmed, allegedly, to appear. And again, I'm not trying to get into a whole speculation episode because this has gone far enough, but we could just kind of have like I've seen this clip. I don't really watch the shows, but like in the CW Flash, Ezra Miller showed up for like a minute because Barry Allen was working on stuff,
so cool.
And they had an interaction, but they didn't spend the whole episode together.
Yeah,
that on a bigger scale, I could imagine Tom having like a meeting with one or two of the other Spider-Men, and maybe not even a fight scene, but just like they say some encouraging shit to him.
I want a fight scene. I want a fight scene so bad.
I want a whole movie so bad. But what I'm saying is we don't have to worry about Spider-Man 3 doing what every Spider-Man 3 has done and becoming too crowded. If it's truly just, it's going to touch on the multiverse and he's going to interact with them. But the main movie is not Tobey, Andrew, and Tom fighting someone as badly as I want it to be. And if it doesn't happen, I will write it myself.
Yeah. No, I think it's all... it has to be all 3 of them going up against a central threat. I could also see Kristen Dunst, that one being fake. Because it's like, do we really need time for the love interests? And I could see Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy back only because I want Spider-Gwen.
Right.
But yeah.
I was going to touch on Emma Stone because I saw something that said Emma Stone's casting is going to be dependent on her pregnancy. And it is now confirmed that Emma Stone is pregnant.
Emma Stone.
And let me just double check something real quick. Like she confirmed it recently, but like it's been such an open secret because like when I saw the picture, it's like, oh, she is not like a little pregnant, like she is.
Mm-hmm.
Like that baby's ready to come out. Yeah, like she's. So I don't know if that helps her, because I thought if she was in the beginning stages of her pregnancy, because they already started filming.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, Scarlett Johansson was pregnant during Age of Ultron.
That's what I was
And
about to
if
say.
you supply a stunt double and interesting and unique camera angles, you can hide the pregnancy,
a baby bump.
Yeah,
the baby bump. And also keep the mother and the child safe, of course.
Right.
The fact that she's more far along is like, maybe she doesn't have a major role, so she can do something after. But at the same time, like, having a baby isn't an easy feat, both physically and then you do have a baby to take care of.
Yep.
So I don't see how she could do it after. I was really hoping to see her
Just
as a
a quick
Spider-Gwen
scene
because
with her and Andrew Garfield.
that's the whole thing. It's like, if it's even one scene, because there's a panel from the comic that I love where I don't remember the backstory too much, but it happened during the Spider-Verse event where the main Peter Parker kind of went off course to go out of his way and save Spider-Gwen. And she was kind of like, why did you do that? Like, I handled myself. And he basically was like, my Gwen Stacy didn't have a good ending. I couldn't bear to see it again. And she said something along the lines of like how her Peter Parker didn't either, so maybe they should like look out for each other. And it's a very sweet moment. And if that happens, I will burst into tears like a baby if this happens on screen. I'll make sure somebody supplies me with like a night vision GoPro so you guys can just watch my reactions to all this.
Perfect.
But yeah, like Emma Stone is the one that's the most. She's the she is of other than the other two Spider-Men. She's who I would want to see the most. She is who I believe has the least chance of coming in because of the pregnancy.
Yeah.
Because Kirsten Dunst could be in it for a few minutes where, I don't know, the portal opens up in Toby's room and he's married now to Mary Jane and she's sitting there.
Yeah.
That's whatever. And we see her and we acknowledge that they're together. She's still there. If Emma Stone's making an appearance, it has to be a Spider-Gwen, because we all saw that movie. We know her neck got snapped like a fucking glow stick.
Yeah. Now, I know Josh has not a hot take, but a take that what if it's revealed that Tobey Maguire is Uncle Ben?
I thought people have been asking for this since 2016 when Tom Holland got announced. They're like, what if, because Melissa Tomei and Tobey Maguire are the same age, in Tom Holland's universe, Uncle Ben's played by Tobey Maguire.
I can't. I like that Homecoming doesn't deal with Uncle Ben. Like we saw that twice. Like I don't
mild disagreement. I want to see MCU Spider-Man touch on Uncle Ben more because it's important to his character, but I'm not one of the people that thinks the fact that he hasn't ruins him as a character.
Right.
I just don't think the uncle needs to be Tobey Maguire. I get it.
I agree, but
it should be that Peter Parker. If it does, like I said in my tweet, I will never watch another MCU again. Like, please.
Oh no!
They were writing it in such a corny way where he looks over at Tobey and he's like, Uncle Ben?
Uncle Ben?
Although, I will say this, if I don't get to see Tobey Maguire cry in his ugly fucking crying face one more time, waste of a movie.
Yeah, that and fucking Rent Guy. I want to see Rent Guy come back. That's going to be the major.
Rent Guy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to open up the portal to Toby's room and it's going to be bum, 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 Rent! And I think that's how we introduce Toby.
Yes. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what other rumors were tossed around. But I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch is confirmed.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie Foxx confirmed it himself, so I'm assuming that one's real.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope so, if he confirmed it himself.
Yeah. I know when he got announced first, we were like, well, maybe they're doing like a J. Jonah Jameson thing where it's like, it's still Jamie Foxx playing Electro, but it's not Andrew Garfield's Electro, which to me, I never bought because like J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, one was 3 movies, reoccurring, perfect casting.
Yep.
Jamie Foxx as Electro was 1 movie that to begin with people don't really like. And while he was fine, he did not become what people think of when we hear Electro.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I guess we'll see. Like Feige said, he's not going to tell us or not tell us, but he did say some of them have been false.
Mm-hmm.
So
I hate that. I absolutely hate it.
At least we won't have to wait long. It's what?
Here's
this
the other
year?
thing. There's also definitely some that we haven't heard about yet.
That's true. But yeah, Spider-Man's end of this year, right?
Spider-Man's December 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
So
that's insane.
Don't have to wait too long.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. For a year from today, I'm gonna see a live-action Spider-Verse. Like, I will know what that is.
Yep.
I'm excited.
I would. No delays.
With how
First,
stacked...
I willed it into existence. Now I need to will it into being good.
Well, the thing is, with how stacked the MCU is, I have a feeling they have to release these. You know, they can't keep pushing them. Like,
yeah, I know. I mentioned this.
It's Marvel.
Yeah, I have a friend who's not really into comics, just really likes Spider-Man, has seen his MCU movies. She is now getting into the MCU for the first time. Me and other friends are walking her through it after each movie. She basically said that she needed an excuse because she's always been curious about the MCU, and that Spider-Man 3 was basically her breaking point where she goes, okay, I'm not going to understand this simply because of the multiverse stuff in Doctor Strange. I think if the movie is written in any well way, which I assume it will be, you should be able to watch Spider-Man Homecoming 3, wherever they put the home in there, and be able to understand it and follow along without having to watch the Tobey and Andrew movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like, there'll be stuff for people who have, but I don't think it's gonna have to be a must-have. You just have to accept these are other Peter Parkers, and they are the ones from these movies. If you've never seen, you're like, these are the ones from the movies I've never seen.
Right.
But you shouldn't have to know any more than that.
Yeah, I get that.
As for that, I mean, I think this is what, a 2-hour-long podcast at this point, guys.
Probably.
Well, the other,
I think it's
2.5.
It's honestly like this is almost like this 55 minutes, and the other was at least an hour 20. So it's about 2.5 hours.
We've been going for a bit. Like I said, there was a lot of Marvel news. We all love it here.
Absolutely.
That's why we couldn't fit this into that Disney and Game Awards.
Yeah, that's why we
episode.
couldn't fit this into the first one.
Imagine
This went longer than that episode.
If we tried to put all of this in that freaking episode.
Oh my, that was already a long
podcast
episode.
I'm going to say this right now. I would have gotten murdered because I held off on feeding my sister to record that. So I was like, oh, she's 16. She'll be fine. She can handle it.
Right.
2.5 hours later.
She can handle going hungry for an hour. And that's like an hour and a half later. She's texting me. She's like, when are you picking up the food? Anyway, on that note, I'm not starving a sister this time. On that note, I will announce, I think I mentioned this in the beginning, but I'll announce it here. We are doing another discussion series for WandaVision. It's going to be, Josh, you're not in that one, are you?
I don't think so. I'm not too
okay. So it's going to be the same people as you had for This is the Waypoint. We are going to bring Jim Tasty back as a special guest, but this time Austin will be replacing Josh.
Yeah.
And we might have some other guest appearances. Who's to know? Who's to say? I'm just saying that for fun. We don't know anybody.
Yeah.
But on that note, all right, Al, tell them where they can find you.
You guys can find me over on Twitter and Twitch at albob875.
All right, Josh.
All social media platforms, including OnlyFans and Twitch at SomeOtherJosh.
And Austin.
Not So Orthodox on YouTube. I'm Lunar Hostage on Instagram. I'm rebranding. I will be Austin Ernie for everything soon. So just Austin Ernie on Twitter, and then look for that for everything else eventually.
I like it.
Alrighty. And I'm Jordan Deeb. You can find me on Twitter at Jordan_Deeb or on twitch.tv/orphangamers, where I am currently playing through Pokemon DLC. But thanks for joining us on the Waypoint Media Club. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.